Monday, July 18th, Board of Commissioners meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On our agenda, we have the approval of the minutes for the public meeting of June 20th, 2011. We're going to defer these till the next meeting. We have some edits to make on those. The Board of Commissioners met in executive session just prior to tonight's meeting. Commissioners Mahoney, Schaefer, and Spingler were absent. All other commissioners were present. We discussed matters of real estate, litigation, and personnel. The Board of Commissioners meeting that will be held in August will be an abbreviated meeting. We hope to only have schedule of bills payable. There may be other items on that agenda. We're just putting that notice out now so people are aware. And that leads me to a recognition. Tonight I'd like to recognize the Radnor High School Ultimate Frisbee Club. And I see that the room is filled, and normally it's not filled in July. So I think most of you are on the Frisbee team. I know not all of you are, but I know a large group over here are. I'm going to come down to the podium, and I'm going to have Tammy Cohen join me at the podium to give out some certificates of appreciation. I'm going to also ask for Joy Schrager to come up. She is the club president, and join us in this process. Nice to meet you. I'll just read a brief background on the team. I happen to love Frisbee. I haven't played in quite some time, but
come out. We have
I might do that. I was going to bring one tonight and have you guys autograph it, but it's out in the car.
You're old enough now to be masters.
Yeah. I'd probably break something. On my body, of course. Well, I just want to say the team that includes 20 high school players accomplished the following this year. They placed first in the Philadelphia Area Division I Championship on May 14th. They also placed, I see here, fifth place in the prestigious USA Ultimate Eastern High School Championship. That was held in Brandywine, Pennsylvania on May 22nd and 23rd, where 30 Division I open and girls teams from all over the states east of the Mississippi competed. They took the title of champions by finishing in first place in the Pennsylvania High School Championship Tournament on May 28th and 29th in Pittsburgh, PA, where 16 boys teams competed for a top ranking in the state. So this is quite an accomplishment. We are on the map, and we want to thank you guys for that. It's a big accomplishment. And I don't want to make this a political statement, but it was just a few months ago that the Ultimate Frisbee team came to us saying, we need space to practice. So you've made your point clear. We're going to find you a place to practice. I appreciate it. But to show our appreciation, first I'd like to present a certificate for the entire team. This is from the Board of Commissioners and the Radnor Township. We'd like to show our appreciation for you for your major achievement this year. And I'd like to put this to a vote. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. So this is a certificate of appreciation for your team. But we're going to go ahead and give certificates out for each member of the team. And I'll call your name, and when I do, I'd like you to please come up. And if you're not present, we'll send the certificate home to you. But please come up, and we'd like to shake your hand. So Adam Schrager. Okay, Adam's up here. Trent Dillon. I think they're down the shore playing Frisbee. Kevin Tang. I'll get to you soon. Riggs Moeller. Jordan August. There we go. Congratulations. Great job. Come out. Yeah, you want to stand for a picture?
Sure.
Yeah, you can stay up here. Usman Chandri. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Anthony Camacho. Greg Mueller.
He's with his brother.
Okay. Peter Jacome. Jordan Angst. Jacob Newton Tanzer. Charlie Harper. Arthur Ethgen. Okay. Nick Shuda.
Not here.
Corey Luker.
Not here.
Suhas Reddy.
Yes, he's here.
Josh Strayer. Okay. Enzo Hain.
Not here.
Dan Robinson. Addison Hanson.
Not here.
And I also want to recognize the coaches. We have Coach Mark Cornacchio.
Congratulations.
And Coach Steve Liner. And on behalf of the Board of Commissioners and the Township, we want to thank you for your achievement, and we appreciate the great hard work you did, and thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Okay, where'd everybody go? I thought they'd want to stick around to see the rest of the meeting, but I guess they don't. They have Frisbee to do. Let's give them a moment to step out. We have Resolution 2011-89. This is an authorization of the Mainline Chamber of Commerce 5K run. Mr. Zinkowski, do you have any comment on this, or staff? Tammy? No? Okay, I guess this is something that we need to do. This includes a walk that is planned on Lancaster Avenue and North Wayne Avenue. And in order to get the access permits, I assume we have to pass this resolution. So I'll move to adopt Resolution 2011-89.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any commissioner comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We have 2011-99. This is a resolution memorializing the personnel appointments. This is from staff. Bob Zinkowski, would you like to comment on this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What this does is part of the reorganization. This places individuals within the various openings that the township has, as well as establishing some individuals with job positions in which they did not have before. So it makes them feel a little better that they actually have a formal job now, job title that they will have. And as part of it is taking away an interim title for a recreation director, as well as making appointments within the Public Works Department, making those permanent appointments. So we ask the Board of Commissioners to consider approving the positions here. And is something that we'll be making as part of the administrative code changes too, that anytime there is an adjustment in salary, either an increase, a decrease, that it has to come in front of the Board of Commissioners by resolution. So anything that has anything to do with salary would have to come in front of the Board of Commissioners for approval.
Thanks, Bob. I'll just make a few brief comments. I appreciate you putting the schedule together. As part of this resolution, I assume Exhibit A was also provided to the public, which includes the public salaries of all the staff. I want to thank Tammy Cohen. She is being appointed to Director of Community Recreation and Programming. We've seen Tammy really step up to the role and take over and do double duty for the last year, and we greatly appreciate her taking on that, as well as many others. And we also want to welcome some of the new staff that have come on. We have our new Director of Public Works, Steve Nursini, thank you. Not a very good welcome. Thanks, Steve. I want to welcome you to the Township, and, as well as others. So no further comment from me. Any board comment? Okay, any public comment? All right, all those in favor of Resolution 2011-99?
We didn't have a motion.
Oh,
I motion the approval of Resolution 2011-99.
Second.
okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any commissioner comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And next up, we have Route 100 Trail Project Update. Mr. Zinkowski, would you like to make a brief comment on this? I see John
Sure.
Fisher.
John Fisher's on his way up,
John
so
Fisher's
John
coming up.
has been involved with this, and I would like to give the board an update on that project.
Okay, thank you. Hello, John.
John, how are you?
Good.
Good evening. John Fisher. 13 months ago, you became the first public body
I think
which
it's upside down, John.
He's,
Beg pardon?
I think it's upside down.
Thank you.
You became the first public body which endorsed studying the feasibility of constructing a multi-use trail within the Route 100 trolley corridor. Since you are now widely acknowledged as being the body which jump-started this process, I thought you might be interested in a short update as to what we've been doing for the last 13 months. We all acknowledge that building a trail within the Route 100 corridor will be complex, time-consuming, and expensive, but we have to start the process someplace, and we need to start with a feasibility study. And there are three goals in this first phase of the feasibility study. First is to obtain from all of the stakeholders a buy-in to doing a feasibility study, and as I said, you were the first body, first stakeholder, which gave us such a buy-in. Second, we need to raise somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000 to do the feasibility study. And then third, we have to hire an engineer and actually do the feasibility study. So what have we been doing for the last 13 months? First, with the help of Charles Klein, who's here tonight, we obtained a $5,000 grant from REI to do some preliminary planning for the project. Second, we then formed a coalition of interested trail groups, which included from Radnor, Charles Klein, myself, and Tom Lally, representing, I guess, essentially the Radnor Conservancy, Bob Thomas, who everybody acknowledges is the trail guru in this area, the Philadelphia Bicycle Coalition, the Rails to Trails Conservancy, the East Coast Greenway, the Clean Air Council, and some other trail advocacy groups. We've been meeting on a regular basis at the offices of DCNR downtown, and I think it's fair to say that Carolyn Wallace is very excited about this trail prospect, and we already rank in the second highest category for funding under DCNR's trail categories. We then spent a couple of months preparing a PowerPoint presentation, which I'm not going to show you tonight, and some maps for our meetings before the various stakeholder groups. And as we were working that process, we made, I think, a very important decision. This was the original plan. Here's the existing Radnor Trail. And the plan was to connect the Radnor Trail to John Heinz down here, going through Haverford Township, Philadelphia, down to John Heinz. We then thought, well, didn't it make more sense to also consider ways of extending the trail westward through to a different township to tie into the Chester Valley Trail, which is now under construction. The Chester Valley Trail will connect to Valley Forge Park. So we would then have a trail that connects Valley Forge Park to the John Heinz Refuge down there. So we now have renamed the trail the Forge to the Refuge Trail. We then started our series of meetings with stakeholders. We met first with Congressman Meehan about a number of different projects, but this was a project that really excited him. Now, he made it quite clear that he couldn't promise us any money, but he said he would help us with the SEPTA board. Speaking of SEPTA, at this point we decided we needed to bite the bullet and meet with SEPTA. SEPTA owns the right-of-way, and if SEPTA turns the project down, then that's the end of the project. Unbeknownst to us, we had scheduled the meeting for a Friday. Unbeknownst to us, Congressman Meehan set up a meeting with the 2 Delaware County reps to the SEPTA board for the following Tuesday. So we got to the Friday staff meeting. Not only was the staff aware of the Tuesday meeting, but they were ready for us. There were 8 staff people there. We had a very thorough, complete meeting with them. They didn't sugarcoat the problems entailed in building this trail, but at the end of the day, they consented to our doing a feasibility study, and that is a critical piece of this puzzle because without SEPTA support, we go nowhere. Then the following Tuesday, we met with the 2 SEPTA directors, and they also endorsed the feasibility study. One thing that we found out in our SEPTA meeting is that the half of the right-of-way that we want to use is licensed to PICO. So we then had to go meet with PICO, and PICO also endorsed the right-of-way. Next step was Delaware County Planning Department because we need to have a governmental body that's going to really sponsor the trail, and we would like Delaware County to sponsor because most of the trail runs through Delaware County. So we met with John Pickett and Beverly Barnes and several other members of the Planning Commission, and they also supported the concept, suggested that we meet with the Delaware County Council, but before doing that, we should finish our process of talking to stakeholders. So we are in the process of scheduling a meeting with the Delaware County commissioners. Last Friday, we met with the Philadelphia Department of Recreation. A portion of the trail will run through Cobbs Creek Park. They also agreed that they would support our application for funding. We are scheduled on August 1 to meet with the Haverford Township commissioners. Later in August, we're going to meet with the different township sidewalks, trails, and paths committee in anticipation of meeting with their commissioners. We have to set up meetings with Upper Darby and the Delaware County commissioners, and then we're done with our stakeholder meetings. Now, in terms of funding, some of you may be aware that the William Penn Foundation has agreed to put up $10 million for trail projects in the Philadelphia area. And we hope to get some of the planning money, and that cycle will probably be a September application deadline. So it's important that we move the process along, meet with Delaware County, and hopefully Delaware County will agree to be the applicant on that request. DCNR is also a possibility. The problem with DCNR is, I think as you all know, they're on an April funding deadline, so we would have to wait until next April to apply, and then they announce in September. So we have to wait pretty much an entire year. But I hope to be able to stand before you in a year and tell you that the feasibility study is either complete or well underway. Thank you.
John, thank you. Any questions from the board? Just want to thank you and all the volunteer effort that's going on around this.
Well, it's a
idea.
great project.
We
It's a great
appreciate
project
it.
for Radnor.
Thank you. We now have a presentation of Villanova University Civil Engineering Department projects. Is there a representative from Villanova University here?
Yeah, we're here.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, just as a lead-up, I had the opportunity to meet with both these ladies here to speak about the projects that they've been working on behalf of Radnor Township, and it's quite impressive of what the school has done and with the students and with both of the professors of what they've done. And it's very good, I think, to be in front of the Board of Commissioners as well as the community to let them know the partnership that we have with Villanova University.
Okay. And is this is Dr. Leslie McCarthy and Dr. Siri Park? Is that
Yes.
right? Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Okay, welcome. Well, we just wanted to have an opportunity to talk to you about some of the projects that we've been doing through the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department at Villanova. We're both transportation professors on faculty there, and my specialty is more back in the highway construction, pavements, context-sensitive solution. I have a background from Federal Highway, worked there for several years before I came to the university. And then Dr. Park's specialty is transportation planning, geometric design, safety. So we're just going to talk about a few different projects that we've done over the last 2 years. I came in 2009, joined the faculty, and because I worked for many years in federal government, I know there's a lot of opportunities for projects, transportation-focused projects that townships and municipalities need done, but they can also cost a lot of money when you hire a consultant to do it. So what I found was I had a lot of students that were interested in doing real-world projects, but there isn't a co-op program at Villanova that allows that to happen. So Dan Malloy was the main contact that I worked with, and also Sergeant Smith from the police department. And we've been, I guess we did 7 different projects over the last 2 years, and when I tried to put a dollar amount of what that projects would have cost if they had been consulted out, it's probably about $500,000. So it's some pretty good projects that we're able to do. We see it as an opportunity to give back to the community. Villanova obviously takes a lot of resources, you know, in terms of the students and police resources and traffic generated and so on and so forth. But it's our little part that we're doing, and it's mutually beneficial. So one of the reasons that we wanted to come and meet the new township manager and talk to you also in the board is to try and perpetuate this win-win situation. Because again, it's giving students an opportunity to work on real-world projects. It's giving you guys an opportunity to have transportation-focused studies completed free of charge, and it helps.
We like that. That's a good
Yeah,
thing.
I know, and I like it.
Everyone likes free. There's no
Right,
one that
right.
doesn't
And
like
I
free.
like real world. I'd rather work on real world projects and allow students to have that opportunity than to kind of dream up scenarios and whatnot. And I know our colleagues in the stormwater side, Rob Traver and his colleagues, they've also worked with Radnor in the past. But my big concern is now that Dan has gone on and the engineering services are contracted out, don't really know where our main line of contact is. Luckily, with Sergeant Smith, we've actually been continuing 2 projects right now, working with him and Lieutenant Antonini. But in terms of one of the things we talked with the township manager about was how this is going to shape up in the future, because we do want to continue this. So just to give you an idea, a couple of the projects that we've done over the last few years. One thing we looked at a preliminary study for applying decorative concrete overlay on the Garrett Hill Bridge renovation. One of the bridges in Garrett Hill is plain old concrete, and the proposal would be to use that as a field test section, actually put decorative concrete on it, choose the design that you guys would want to apply there, and then it would you know, be something that would beautify the neighborhood as well as provide some protective features. So, for example, we've been doing research at Villanova, and we found that decorative concrete overlay over plain concrete can slow the intrusion of chloride, so de-icing salt and whatnot and debris that gets into the concrete and erodes the steel on the inside. We've also seen that it is resistant to freeze-thaw cycle. So we did a lot of laboratory work, and we have an outdoor test section that we continue to monitor. So I think that one is something that it hasn't been applied. I think it kind of needs the board's approval or to look at that and see whether or not you'd want to put it in there. I think we might be able to get Villanova to spring for the actual application of it. That was kind of what Dan and I were working on a couple of years ago when we started that. So that's one project. Another thing is the federal government is requiring compliance from all agencies to have a traffic sign inventory. So we worked with Sergeant Smith and Dan to develop a sign inventory system, which is also an asset management tool. And actually the refreshing thing is that Sergeant Smith and Dan were already starting to use that to look at which signs need a replacement first. So we looked at the crash data to see which locations were your hot spots in the township where you needed signs replaced because signs were at fault for the crashes occurring. And it's also a liability issue. If you're replacing the signs where you have the highest number of crashes first, then you're also covering yourself. You've got it in a sign database. When you start having tickets contested and whatnot, say, well, I couldn't see the sign, we have the actual database that the police can go to and say, well, you know what, it meets all the retroreflectivity guidelines that are out there. So we've worked on that, and they also included parts of signposts and things, so again, they can go out and replace those on an risk-based basis instead of just kind of going out randomly and changing those. We're also working on a validation of field pavement thickness, so to try and get a little bit better quality construction. And so hopefully in the next few weeks we'll be meeting with the new director of Public Works and talk about doing some of those studies. And finally, the Eagle Road Bridge, looking at the possibility of setting a weight limit based on the pavement conditions. So anybody that's kind of driven on the approaches to that bridge can see the pavement is in absolutely terrible shape. And so what we did, we actually went out with a piece of equipment that can tell us what the thickness and the stiffness are of the surface layers underneath. And so we take that data then, and what we're able to do is look at what the pavement structure should be in order to handle that amount of load. And what we're going to see is that the structure that's out there is not adequate for the loads that are going over it. So then that way the police department can either decide to set a weight limit and ticket that way, or you have to look at reconstructing to meet the load. So I think that'll be good information. Sergeant Smith and his staff can actually use that information and decide to go forward on that. So, and the good thing, it's all based on real engineering analysis, and it's kind of like, well, we'd like to do it, but not have actual scientific basis for it. So with that, I'll let Dr. Park talk about some of the traffic impact studies.
Hi, I'm Sari Park. I joined Villanova last year. I've been teaching it. I taught at University of California in Irvine, so I came Philadelphia area last year. And then what I've been doing with students, it's more traffic operation, especially signal timing, because there are a lot of congestion and the queue on the Lancaster Avenue. So some of the studies that we did was is the intersection signal is really oriented, and for example, it was a traffic impact study for the Radnor Chester Road near Radnor High School. So students, they went out, they collected the data, and then they see what kind of traffic timing would improve the traffic flow. And at Villanova, we do have a traffic simulation analysis software where we can do a lot of alternative analysis. So for example, what if we put the signal over there? What if we put the signal, but let's say the green light for the through movement, let's give 20 seconds versus 40 seconds. So how would it improve the overall network circulation? So that's a good analysis for students, because not only they do a software analysis, but they also go out, look at the traffic condition and the hands-on experience. So that's one thing that we did. Another thing is how the roadway geometry can affect the traffic operations. So for example, the Sproul-Conestoga Road, to see if the left turning, dedicated left turning signal, is it warranted or not, something like this. And also another thing that we did was the Lancaster Avenue, that intersection where it's really interesting intersection, we have 5 legs. I bet you all know where I mean. So we did a lot of alternative analysis. What if we take off one roadway, or what if we do some signal coordination with other intersections? And then we do have a lot of alternative analysis. So I think one good thing is for students, not only they learn the background information at school, but also they actually go out, collect the traffic data, and then we can do some recommendation based on the alternative analysis. And most of all, it's free labor, and then students were learning. At the same time, I'm sure that this is something that we can contribute to the community. So we hope that we can continue this relationship, especially that a lot of students, we really want to show them how the real world is working. So we hope that we can build on more relationship. Yes.
Well, I want to thank you both. All of these projects seem to have a lot of relevance. I was aware of the preliminary study on the Garrett Hill Bridge because Dan Malloy had contacted me on that, and I'm hoping that'll actually happen because that bridge really could use some beautification but also protection so it doesn't decay. And also the signal optimization, this board voted just a few months ago to spend, I think it was around $18,000 to pay for some signal optimization on Lancaster Avenue. So getting that information and those studies done by the university could be a big help to us in the long run. So we appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
But I guess the question wasn't answered, right? Bob, they've asked who their point of contact is now that Dan has resigned.
They can work through me,
Okay.
and then we'll make sure we get the various departments between Public Works and between engineering to make sure we work with you.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you
Great,
for
thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you.
so much. We now have a presentation from the Radnor Fire Company Advanced Life Support Services.
which are effective August 1st. I see Dave Roderick approaching the podium. Hello, Dave.
I just have to announce that I'm a little intimidated following 2 Villanova PhDs up here. I'm not nearly smart enough to be doing this, if that's the requirement. Dave Roderick from Wayne, president of the Radnor Fire Company. Well, as you know, you authorized ALS in January, and we have been very busy since then. The first thing we did is we formed an ALS implementation committee, and I want to take the opportunity to thank the people, the volunteers at the fire company that participated in that. A lot of people were very instrumental. Our Chief Jim Kelly, our Deputy Chief Joe McGuire, Ambulance Chairman John Gillespie, and many others that contributed countless hours to actually working on the implementation. The first step of our implementation committee implementing ALS was hiring our ALS coordinator. And I thought the best thing for me to do would be to introduce him tonight and let him give you the update. His name is John Buffington. He started his career at Crozier Chester Medical Center, which is a tough place to work. So he cut his teeth in a very, very tough environment as a paramedic. He's very experienced, and he was lately of Malvern Fire Company, where he was a full-time paramedic. We were very fortunate to get John as our ALS coordinator, so I'll introduce him. If you have any questions after his presentation, I'll be glad to come back up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As President Roderick said, my name is John Buffington, the ALS coordinator at the Radnor Fire Company. I started my service in April of this year, and since, as he said, we've been very busy. Since last update, the fire department has hired 4 full-time paramedics beside myself and 12 part-time paramedics. We currently have 3 fully equipped ALS units. And I'm happy to say we've recently passed our licensure inspection from the region. Per the state of Pennsylvania, we've actually been licensed as an advanced life support service and are just waiting on our seals for the sides of the trucks at this point. We are far ahead of schedule. For approximately 18 days now, we've actually been running parallel with our paramedics alongside of Narberth Ambulance's paramedics to exercise our schedule and to get everybody oriented to the service. We are well on our way. August 1st cannot get here soon enough. We're excited to see the project move forward, and we're happy to service the people of Radnor Township. Any questions?
I just had one small question. I suspect I know the answer to it, but I think they probably deserve at least a little bit of a plug for the professionalism. It was a difficult decision, and I assume that Narberth is being very professional and very cooperative. And
absolutely,
I think they just at least deserve credit for that, because I know it was important to them, and the decision didn't turn out the way they would like.
Absolutely. We've been working actually very closely with them to make sure that there's a seamless transition. They've been very helpful through the process and have wished us well in our endeavors.
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. We couldn't have actually done this transition without their help, and I want to thank you for joining Radnor Ambulance Service and Paramedic Service and running that activity. It's very important to the public, and on behalf of the board, we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a presentation of this for the second annual Grand Fondo Philadelphia Bicycle Ride. Do we have any representatives from that group? I guess not. Bob, do we have any presentation on this? Otherwise, we just have a motion.
What we can do is, if you'd like to hold off on that and possibly do that in August, that'll be in front of staff traffic tomorrow.
Okay. What is the date of that event? Do we know? I don't see anything here.
I don't have that offhand.
Yeah, okay. I apologize for that. All right, we'll move on. The Radnor Conservancy Race for Open Space presentation authorization. For
Just
support.
one question. In the event that event is it, do we know, is it in August, September, October? Is there a risk that it occurs before our next meeting, and that we need to have some kind of planning in place to get this done?
I know Sergeant Smith and Superintendent Colarulo were here. I think they've stepped out, so possibly we can come back to them when they're there. So maybe we can ask them.
I'm looking it up right now.
George? On the,
He's going to get the paperwork if you want to
Okay.
come back to it, and we'll
Okay,
have something
sure.
for you, okay?
All right, we'll bring that back up tonight if we get that information. We have a presentation from the Radnor Conservancy on the Radnor Conservancy Race for Open Space.
Hi, good evening. My name is Leslie Bowes. I'm the Executive Director of Radnor Conservancy, and with me is Sarah Lupkis, our COO. We recently had our pilot program of our Race for Open Space. The Radnor Conservancy is always really concerned about one of our big concerns is to bring attention to the Radnor trails and the fabulous trails that this township has to offer and support the trails in any way we can. It was National Trails Day, and we thought that a trail run would be a great way to celebrate the trails that we do have. This was an off-road run. It's not an on-road run. We were completely contained within the parks. We didn't go on any public roads at all, we had a great event, and I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to let you, she's going to give you a presentation about how the day went.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. I'd like to thank the commissioners for having us here today. It was a wonderful run. I'm sorry, let me just start it as a slideshow. It really was an ideal way to kick off this event. We had wonderful weather. Like Leslie said, it was National Trails Day. When we started with the idea for having an off-road race, we contacted Run the Day. They're a race management company that has significant experience in hosting trail races. They helped us, first of all, by coming out with us to the trails at the Willows and Skunk Hollow Parks, letting us know if we had good trails to run, if we had the distance to have a 5K event, and their enthusiasm when they hiked the trails with us the first few times was really infectious. They hosted our online registration, and they also provided chip timing for our race, which really helped to make it as professional and well-run as possible. We took many environmental concerns into account. When we met with Run the Day, they said that a trail like ours could have a capacity for 250 runners. We limited our registration to 150 to make sure that there was no damage to the trails, and that just having it be our first event, that our volunteers didn't feel overwhelmed, that parking wasn't overwhelmed. We also consulted with Mary Coe, who is a wildflower expert. She was concerned that the trail is home to some rare and very significant wildflowers. We worked with her to make sure that any of those areas would be protected and not trampled on. She came out with us, and she also went out on her own just to make sure that those areas stayed safe. We also made sure that all of our supplies and our race packets were as environmentally friendly as possible. We didn't use plastic bags. We tried not to have too many items like handing out a plastic water bottle to each person that would get thrown away. For our course preparation, we worked with Maharsi Naidu and his Eagle Scout group to improve and clear the trails. They did at least 2 weekends worth of work for us in terms of pruning some vines, making sure that the trails were clear enough for runners to get through, that there were no dangerous areas where people might trip on any vines or roots. We also made sure that we marked the trails exclusively with stakes and tape, and we went through and removed them immediately following the race. For our runners, we had 98 5K finishers. We also had 25 children participating in a fun run, and this event was not timed, but we had a 2-mile walk jog option, and we had about 25 people participate in that. And we do hope to expand that for next year, because there were many people who were interested in being out in the park and on the trails but are not joggers, so we'd like to have a walk option. And the fun run was also coordinated by the Eagle Scouts, and that was for children ages 4 to 10 years old. And these are some pictures that we have of the day. This was our pre-race registration in the Willows Cottage. This was our starting line. The man with the megaphone is Frank Durso. He's from Run the Day, and he got all the runners started, and they, like I said, they provided the timing. These are some of our finishers. Kim O'Neill was actually the first female finisher for the race. And these were our Eagle Scouts who worked on the fun run that morning. And these are some kids who were getting ready for the fun run, and this is them afterwards. And we also would like to thank our sponsors. We could not have done it without them, and they were so helpful and supportive, and we're just so happy to support an event for the trails and for Radnor Township. And next year, National Trails Day is the weekend of June 3rd, and we are very excited to have this race again. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
So just to conclude, one thing that we would like to do is thank Tammy Cohen and Park and Rec. She held our hand through the whole process. We were new, new race holders, and we worked very closely with Tammy. She made herself available and really helped us. She hooked us up with the Eagle Scouts so that we could get that done, and she could not have been more supportive or cooperative in terms of helping us coordinate the race. And also, as long as we're here, we had some volunteer EMTs on site just in the event that something might go wrong. We fortunately didn't have any issues at all, but we had a bus and two guys there who were there to help us, and we'd like to thank the Radnor Fire Department for that. So it was not an event that happened all by ourselves. It was truly a community event. I think it was a really successful event. Our application for a permit for next year is currently pending, and we just thank the township for allowing us to hold it.
Thanks, Leslie. Yep, great event. Thank you. I see, did Sergeant Smith come back in? I did go back out. Okay, we'll come back to that. We have a public hearing for ordinance 2011-18, amending the code of ordinances, Chapter 5 for administration of government. This is for the creation of a planning services department and a building codes department, and essentially elimination of what was known as community development. That item, we'll open that hearing. However, later on tonight, item N will probably get postponed because we're going to be looking at that whole reorganization a little bit closer in those two departments. So I'll open that public hearing. If anybody would like to come up and speak on that item, you're welcome to do so. And keep in mind that this will not be voted on tonight.
Thank you. Jim Schneller. I live in St. David's Park condominium. And it's great that you're doing this in the democratic manner. Thank you. Would it be possible to ask, is it appropriate to ask what the gist of this is? Is it just a reorganization for functional purposes? And if I could ask, is it just, I mean, is there a like a headline reason, or is it just for multiple reasons?
Well, Mr. Schneller, I'll briefly address the administrative code as it sits now before the reorganization lists a number of departments which the township manager and the board last month approved a reorganization of the administration. So part of this is will break up primarily the Department of Community Development into a planning department, a building code department. So those duties that are in the code, that are defined in the code now, are going to be broken up. There's been an issue since the board approved the reorganization chart with Mr. Bauman has since left the township, and he was in charge of community development. So because of that change in personnel, there's going to be some rethinking of what's been advertised for tonight. As Mr. Fisher said, since it was advertised based on what the board did last month, we're going to have the public hearing tonight, but there's not going to be any vote. But I suspect that what will come back when this is re-advertised is something very similar to what's in front of the board tonight. But you're going to have a switching around of Department of Community Development job duties between two new departments, and it's going to be spread out among other employees. So that's, in order to do that and make it consistent with the code, we need to make these editorial amendments in the code.
Can I ask, so the engineer was traditionally kind of like a nebulous entity, and is the engineer going to be under either of these department heads, or remain reporting to the manager?
Well, what's going to happen?
Oh, that's right, you have a firm. Well,
I mean, right now, the code and the Home Rule Charter provides for the appointment of a township engineer. That can be an employee, that can be a outside contractor, and since Mr. Malloy left, there's been an interim township engineer appointed. So the engineering services that are defined in the administrative code are going to come under not so much an engineering department, but under more of a planning department going forward, or under the Public Works Department. I think some of that's still being worked out. I know Mr. Zinkowski has some other thoughts about that, but that's not going to be a nebulous department. There's still going to be engineering, but whether or not it's going to be in the same form as it's been in the past, that remains to be seen.
Sure, and Mr. Chairman, if I can, just to add to that, there's one section that is part of this outside of the reorganization, but I think is important that we add, which is actually under section 11, in the last sentence under that says, in no event shall the manager prescribe any rules or regulations from employee salary or other compensation without approval of the Board of Commissioners by resolution. And I think that's one of the issues that the township experienced and was brought to light by not only residents but also by the treasurer too as well. So this rectifies that so that only the Board of Commissioners can make any adjustments in the way of salary or compensation, and has to come in front of the board publicly.
and one note I wanted to please make was that there's no implement. If you look at B2, to ensure compliance with the orders of the zoning board and applicable provisions, and then for the building and code department in 524A2 is also carrying out functions of the code official, fire marshal. But I would hope that maybe, since you're being specific, there might be mention of the official who would issue citations or just enforce the many scattered violations, and there's not too many, such as the shade tree ordinance, the design review board. Most of the chapters have some kind of violation listed and define a violation. So it'd be great to list them here so we know who exactly would be following up on those. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further public comment on this public hearing?
I move the public hearing be closed. I move the public hearing be closed.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the hearing is closed. I also want to note that Commissioner Spengler is now present for the rest of the meeting, unless he's recused at some point. At this point, I'll open up to public participation. You have an opportunity to come up and speak on any items that are on the agenda, items that are not on the agenda.
Commissioner Fish, before
Yes.
you move on, I had met briefly with the chief of police. We can go back to that one item real quickly that we had discussed earlier.
Yes, the motion to authorize the use of Radnor Township roadways for the second annual Grand Fondo Philadelphia bicycle ride.
Chief, if you could just give a brief update on our discussion we just had about that item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we were hoping that the people representing that ride were here tonight. Unfortunately, they're not. We would ask that the board approves this pending the approval by staff traffic study tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll move the approval.
Actually, before we do that, what was the date of the event?
The date is August 14th, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, the timing, and
That
then
makes sense.
having staff traffic meeting
Right.
tomorrow, we figure if you could give conditional approval, assuming that staff traffic will sign off or not sign off on it,
Right.
we'll tie it to that. That would be very
Okay.
helpful to us.
It's been moved.
Second.
It's been seconded. All those, any commissioner comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. All right, we'll head into public participation again. If you'd like to make any public comment tonight, you have opportunity before every official action that we take tonight. But if you'd like to comment on something that's not on the agenda, or if you have additional thoughts, or if you can't be present for that item, you can come up now.
Hi, Baron Gemmer, South Wayne Avenue. Just a few quick items. It was mentioned about Matt Bauman's departure, and I'd just like to formally thank him for his service to the township at this point. I guess he's not going to get the big celebration that some of the past folks, but he will certainly be missed, and it's a loss for us. Also, along the same lines, I believe Mark Rhodes had to step down from the Planning Commission, or chose to step down for whatever reason, and that also will be a loss. He was an excellent chair for that commission, and he will also be sorely missed. Speaking of Planning Commission, I know we brought this up before, and actually, strangely enough, the same applicant has a sketch plan before them this upcoming meeting, and I just want to make sure that the residents of that area will be able to speak at that. I know we've talked about that in the past. And my last comment actually relates a little bit to the prior agenda item with the public engineer. I looked at the RFP for the public engineer, and under the scope of services, I'm not sure I saw where there was resident interaction, or if someone that was involved in a development, be it a neighbor or whatever, could speak to the engineer, or much as we do now. I know David's made himself available for what we need, and I didn't know if that was planned on going through the engineer, or there was going to be somebody that was going to be an intermediary for that. But that's very important, because obviously speaking to someone who's looking at the Saldo code or whatever is an important way to resolve those issues. So I didn't know if there was thoughts on that or not.
Mr. Chairman? If I may, that's a good question, Baron. Being that Steve Norsini, our Public Works Director, is an engineer, and since it is planned that he will oversee the engineer, he would be the point person to make contact, as well as questions like that, or even individual residents that may have a question to make the determination, would work through Steve.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have, Ryan.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments. Any further public comment?
Hi, good evening. My name's Kathy Sonier. I'm at 14 Cornwall Circle in St. David's, and I'm here actually representing a large number of neighbors in our community who have a growing interest in the Eastern University proceedings. I know it's not on the agenda. We will be attending the Planning Commission meeting on August 1st as well, but we wanted the opportunity to speak to the board about a few items. The first is we wanted to let the board know that there is a large number of neighbors in our community who believe that Eastern University is a tremendous asset to the township and to the community, and we want to make sure that our voices are heard. We've been fairly silent so far through most of these proceedings, but from the facilities, the campus amenities, to the quality of the students that are part of the university, we really can't be more pleased to have them as a neighbor and feel like it's a benefit to all members of the community to have them there. And as a result of that, we're very supportive of their plans for campus improvement. We think anything that they think will continue to provide improved amenities and facilities for the students so they can continue to attract the quality of students they have and to provide financial strength to the university is a benefit to the community. We want a strong university as a neighbor as opposed to somebody who might be having some financial troubles. So in general, we support their plans for the community center, for the student center. And we wanted to make sure that the board understood that some of the opinions that we have heard expressed about the university through some of these proceedings are not necessarily shared by all neighbors of the university and are not reflective of everybody. And to that end, the second point that we wanted to make is we wanted to invite all neighbors to work together. We're trying to find a way to proactively seek input from all the neighbors. We know that not everyone feels the way that we do about the university, and we want to find a way to work collaboratively with all the neighbors so that all opinions can be heard and we can understand issues that some folks have with the university. They can understand the support and the rationale that we have and our community group as we're putting it together. So we want to make sure that the university has an opportunity as well to hear all inputs. And so we're hoping through that collaboration, we can provide more of a singular voice to Dr. Black and his leadership so that when it comes to making decisions and choices, they have the voice of all the neighbors involved. And so that's something we're going to be seeking to do. And we invite any neighbor or any party of interest with Eastern to contact us. And we are going to proactively be knocking on doors and trying to make contact as well with them. And then the last point that we want to make, and we recognize that this is something more for the Planning Commission, and we will bring it forward, is that this group of neighbors that I represent does not believe that the plans for the interior loop road are in the best interest of the township. We're concerned about environmental issues, the traversing of two streams and wetlands, and we also have some safety issues as well. We've spoken to the university about it. We certainly understand some of the concerns of the university. It's their private property. They have the right to do with it what they will within the regulations of the township. We also appreciate that they're in a tough spot. They're going to have an abandoned parking lot once they choose to close the Fenimore Road entrance, and they obviously need to access that parking lot for the school vans and the athletic fields. So we do recognize the situation that they're in, but we want to make sure that our voice is heard, and we'll plan to do so through the Planning Commission hearings. And really lastly, we just want to seek additional dialogue and understanding. We know that an alternative road was suggested. It was determined not feasible by the university engineers because of PICO rights, but we need to gather, mea culpa, we need to gather additional information about that. But we're hoping through the neighborhood collaboration, as well as continued dialogue with Dr. Black and his team, we might be able to brainstorm and find some better alternatives than the road as it is proposed. So the one thing I do ask is if there's a point of contact that I can provide our contact information so that anyone perhaps watching on TV or anyone in the room this evening who would like to contact us to be part of this collaboration, how would I get that done?
I would suggest providing your contact information to Bob Zinkowski offline.
Great.
And then anyone who contacts the township concerning this issue could then get that information from him.
That would be fabulous.
Rather than giving your phone number out on
No
the
problem. But the other question, I guess, and I don't know if you're comfortable with it, Bob, but, you know, they got the scroll. Would you be comfortable with some email or contact
I would
information?
suggest email.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
Email would be fantastic. So we'll contact. Thank you very much. Appreciate the board's time.
Okay, thank you. Any further comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public participation. We'll move right into the departmental reports.
Should they be accepted?
Second.
Okay, any commissioner comment? Okay, seeing none, any public comment? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, if I
Yes.
may just add also, too, there are weekly reports posted on the website, so anyone like to follow the activities of different departments, they are updated.
I appreciate that, and great job on the reports. We appreciate the transparency that they provide. We'll do the committee reports. Commissioner Curley, Community Development.
I motion the approval for certificate of appropriateness for HARB 2011-18.
I recuse myself.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any board comment?
I understand we would have a presentation on this or some information to sort of a
Public
brief summary.
comment.
Well,
As from your last meeting, you know, the board authorized the certificate of appropriateness to go back to HARB for reaffirmation or denial based on proceedings that had taken place. They met this month, reviewed the application, and approved it and sent it back to the Board of Commissioners tonight for your final approval.
Very good. Thank you.
okay, I want to note Commissioner Spengler's recusal on this item. I don't have any, I just have a few general comments. It sounds like the neighborhood has been really paying attention to this issue for several months, and it seems like they've been working with and through the Planning Commission and with the developer trying to come up with something that works for everyone. I'm not so sure we're there yet. So at this point, I'll open up to public comment, and if there are, if you can nominate a spokesperson for your message, that would be greatly appreciated, but you're certainly welcome and have a right to come up and speak individually if you would like to. So anyone who would like to come up and speak from the public on this item?
I'm Jim Schneller. I'm a resident of St. David's Park, which is 2 blocks from the location, but I frequently traverse the Weller Court. I think you know that I've said that I have utilized the zone since I was a youth. And a lot of the facts are before you, but I think that there's an issue where I would ask your extreme care with the knowledge that at least the prior zoning officer felt that anything strictly internal would be it would be impossible for our township to be involved at all. And I'd ask you in some way to prevent a piecemeal approval, and especially to keep in mind that this could be your final approval on what may well be worthy for a community-driven restoration to any extent possible, maybe not planned by the builder. And second of all, I have to comment that it's quite apparent to me as someone who participated at the last hearing, that the last HARB hearing, that the neighborhood was not aware of the fact that due to the terrain, what is 2 feet within level as far as the top of the underground garage is unfortunately on 2/3 of the circumference, anywhere from 4 feet to 8.5 feet higher than the current street level. And I would ask you to disapprove. I don't think that this is healthy, that it's gone back and forth between 2 commissions. And I would hope that it wasn't theatrics to just get the thing approved. There's that possibility. And you being the board have the final say. And it would be wonderful if you could get specifics into the resolution about whether the entire renovation could come before you at one time. And if the developer doesn't plan to, could you make a resolution that because there are windows, and of course there's very nice detail that's been stated will be left improved and restored. As far as the underground parking garage, I believe that it's been stated to solely depend on a requirement to keep the top of the garage above an existing door in the basement. And I don't know if there's something in the code about basement doors can't be renovated. I don't understand that. I would hope someone could clarify that for us tonight. Because with that out of the way, a simple 3 to 4 foot deeper garage is wonderfully helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Baron, before you speak, you can come on up. No, come on up. John Rice, I just want to get a point of clarification. This has been, I misspoke, this has been to the HARB 3 or 4 times. This is still subject to zoning requirements and construction requirements, and so...
Yeah, there's two other issues down the road. One is there's a zoning hearing board application that's been filed. I think there's a date in August that the zoning hearing board's trying to set for that. And then there's a land development plan that'll be filed with the township. So, you know, this is one piece, you know, in all of the regulatory hoops that have to, you know, be met. So the board has a recommendation from HARB, and the board, you know, under Chapter 178 can approve it, can deny it, can modify it. But there's 2 other, what I would consider major reviews that are going to take place on this going forward.
But in terms, this may be the last time it's before the Board of Commissioners, but it's not the last time it's before administration and before the zoning hearing board.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's not accurate, because it would be before the board as a Saldo application.
Yeah,
It
land
is,
development.
it is coming in as Saldo.
Yeah, it'll
Okay.
come back
So
as
it will
land
be-
development.
So we'll have preliminary and final approvals.
Correct.
With conditions. Okay, I appreciate that.
And John, just for your benefit, because I know you weren't here the last meeting, the certificate of appropriateness was presented at the last meeting for a vote, and there was some discussion as to whether or not the HARB appropriately understood and allowed proper dialogue. So we actually asked them to go back and send it back. And John, I don't know if you're sitting here as the representative of the Harb, but we actually asked a representative of the Harb to be here present tonight in case we needed clarifying questions answered.
Thank you. Very helpful. Okay, Baron?
Yeah, Baron Gemmer, South
Also,
Wayne.
I'll ask, is there a sign-in sheet
No,
at the
there's
podium?
not tonight.
No, there is not. Okay, never mind. We're trying to affect the accuracy of the minutes. We're trying to do the best we can in recording those who speak. But if there isn't a pad there, Bob, maybe for the next, yeah, it's something we just forgot to do. Thank you.
Yeah, Baron Gemmer, South Wayne Avenue. I wanted to speak to one of the issues that I don't think Shade Tree and the Harb, at least during their meetings, comprehended in terms of the elevation of this garage relative to the existing terrain as well as to the road. I think it's Mr. Schneller kind of touched on that, and I just want to show some parts of the plan so you can see what impact that will have. Certainly from a historical perspective, a lot of that will also be effective for planning, but it does have an impact upon the historic perspective in terms of that the district there is one of the few that's actually based upon the feel of the district, the homes around the mansion as opposed to just individual homes like you might find in North Wayne and South Wayne. So if I could actually get Jim to zero in, I'm going to show a few documents here. Just This is the existing plan where it shows things are going to be demoed, and I just wanted to show it because I'm going to zero in on this part right here. To show, here's the 99-foot elevation line, and if you follow it there, it actually goes right to the edge of the existing steps there. Sorry. Okay. Why that's important is that gives us a baseline to show what the new elevation of the garage is going to be. So that's 99, and you can easily go measure where it shows the new elevation here. It's pretty clear both here on the link of the limit. Once it's shown on a post view where the ground is there, and roughly that's about 4 foot 4 inches. I know that there's been different numbers bandied around, but even if it's plus or minus 3, it's at least 4 inches up to that point. So you're talking about the elevation of the ground being 4 feet above that 99-foot mark. So 103 plus is basically the elevation of the garage plus the dirt on top of it per these plans. And just to show you again here, kind of a side view, there you see the before on the south elevation. And there you see the after, so it's pretty clear how high up it is, and it's fairly easy to measure that within a couple inches. So now, taking that, we can look at the other plans to see what is going to become. So again, here, this is the plan that basically shows the garage. It shows the elevation lines, which I'll show in more detail in just a second, and zoom in on the garage portion. So there's the garage portion, but it's kind of hard to see, and this is some of the problems that Shade Tree and Harb had. This dark line here is actually the center line of the road, and I'll show the others, but the road is actually right about there. You see that dotted line? It's very hard to see. The other solid line is the front yard setback, the 30 feet that you see marked right there. So in an attempt to make that a little easier to read, and hopefully I succeeded on that, although I don't know if the colors come through. I highlighted this is the edge of the road, the darker line that's away from the center line, and the dotted bigger line is the front yard setback. And although it doesn't show up as well on the film, these are the color-coded. This is 94 elevation, the green. This is 95 is red, 96 is blue, 97 is green, dotted, 98 is green, red dotted, 99 is blue dotted, and then the black is 100. And just for your purposes, I have some quick copies in case you don't want to look at that, so bear with me 1 second here. So it's important then to be looking at these elevation lines both relative to where the current grade is and where the new is. So for example, I believe right now they tried to stake out and have a 7-foot pole there, whereas you can see that's a 95-foot, and in order to get up to 103 it would need to be 8+ feet. So they attempted to kind of show what the current plan shows, but even that is not quite accurate. Then, now I don't have a copy of this for you, but what I did then is, if you can look between the elevation lines, because you look at where the road is, and then you can see what elevation line is there. So like, for example, this is 94. This road is below 94 feet at that point. And then if you come in here, what I've done then is, based upon where the elevation lines cross the road, is shown what the elevation of the road is below where the garage is going to be. So here it's going to be 7 feet below, 8 feet below. Here it's 9 feet below, because that's 94, and we already established our 103 baseline for where the top of the garage is, coming straight across. 9 feet all the way along here, 8 feet, and then the slope goes up a little higher there, so it's not as quite as high there. But what this shows you is how high this will be. Even more so, this is actually, and Kaz's plans actually show this elevation here to be 8 feet 4 inches. And he also validates the other side to be, I believe it's 2 feet 4 inches. His elevation over here, he has another one that he explicitly states is actually incorrect. It shows 6 feet something. It should be 7 feet something. What this also needs to show, though, is that you need to look at the slope of how this is going to go down.
Baron, can you give us the relevance of this? This is very technical, even for engineers, right? Are you saying that the ceiling of the garage structure that is underground will actually be coming out of the ground? Or?
Yeah, if you looked at if you took the slab, forgetting the dirt that's on top, if you look at the slab, Curly's current plans, none of that slab would be below the current grade of the yard there. What this is saying right here is, if I'm standing on the corner looking here, I'm about, at this point actually at the corner, I'm only 10 feet away from a 9-foot wall of dirt essentially. That's why you've heard it referred to as a submerged garage, because none of it is underground in terms of the top of it, and quite a bit of it is basically just a building sitting out there in the yard. In bringing that up in terms of the historic nature, that if you can't, these people will not be able to see their neighbors across the way. It'll be more of a canyon effect than what the historic district is trying to achieve, which is the mansion yard surrounded by these houses where you have that look and feel.
And did you raise these issues at the last HARB meeting?
Well,
or was it not quite understood at that point?
It was not quite understood, and I won't speak for the HARB members, so some of them there may want to speak. We tried to speak to it, and they wanted to keep to just what you charged them with originally, which was just that connection. And I think toward the end they got a little, I think they still thought, because I want to talk about slopes, I think they still thought the slopes at that point weren't going to be as bad. Since then, for better or worse, they've been out at the site, with the applicant seeing this. So I think they have a better feel, although even what's out at the site is not accurately reflect what the current plan as is shows. I think the heights are actually less than that. And let me, so I can show you the...
And also, if you can, in the essence of time and fairness, because there are a lot of folks in the room, although you may be speaking on a lot of their behalf, I don't know, if you can summarize as quickly as you can. Because you've made a very important point, and I think it matters.
I just have a couple more to make with that. And what I was saying here, that this elevation too, for the people here, there's actually a fence on top of this, which is 3.5 feet. So those people would be looking up at essentially 12 feet to the top of the fence that's surrounding the garage opening. And you can kind of see that here. And you can get a feel for the height of this, because again, this fence is 3.5 feet tall. So there's your 12 foot for people looking there, and you can see how the elevation there relative to the corner is. Shade tree is not really picked up on this. They were supposed to come back to shade tree with where the trees would be planted relative to the elevation. And the problem we're going to run into is trees are going to have to be planted on the garage or on these very steep slopes. Because what I want to talk about is you've got current plan. You've got a 9-foot elevation that has to get down very quickly, and it's not the 10 feet, because if you look at their plans, and I will wrap up, John, I'm not going to take too much longer. Actually, this one shows the 8-4. I don't know if you can read that very well. That's the one that I was pointing to on the side of the garage. This is directly opposite the garage, the 2-4. But the problem with those, and including this is a 6-4, which is an incorrect number. It has to be at least 7 feet there. All of these show the slope going to the road. And part of the issue, both when it gets to saldo and zoning, will be slopes. But that's also important here in terms of the look and feel. These slopes will need to be much steeper because the slope can't go to the road. The saldo doesn't allow that. It can't even go to the right-of-way. And so when you look at here, where there's only 10 feet to go and you've got to be 3 feet in from the right-of-way, you only have like 4 feet to take down a 9-foot slope. And that's way over anything that we allow in the code, let alone how it will look and be retained. So let me make a couple more points and I believe there might only be one more neighbor, but I can't count on that. The other thing that I know a lot of this will get taken care of in planning, but the submission did include impervious numbers, which didn't include any of the steep slopes that would have to be counted against that. And also, it's this garage length, again, this will get in saldo, but there are aspects of it that don't conform to saldo, so it actually has to be even longer than this, and it's already tight as it is. So there's just a lot of things going on here, but the purview right now is within the historic guidelines. And from 178.7, which is the HARB code, portion F is, design of the building as it relates to the historic character of the district. Consideration may be given to the following in evaluating applications. Number 2 is preserving the overall relationship amongst the building within each district's development pattern. And certainly the relationship between the buildings is going to be severely hampered here when you have a 9-foot wall between your neighbors and you're basically seeing your next door neighbor and maybe the roof of the house way up here. And then also number 7 within that same section is preserving compatibility within the surrounding buildings within each district. And make no mistake too, this is a structure. This is actually part of the principal building. So the impact it's having, albeit covered with dirt, is still significant. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Hi, I'm Susan Byrne from Luella Court. I'm going to put a human context around all that technical information because it is technical and we want to make sure everybody understands it so that we get the best outcome for the mansion that we can. So if you just bear with me while I plug in this for a second. Okay, so you sent us back the last time to take a look at the linkage, and because we hadn't been able to address some of the issues, there was not as open a form of communication. The conversation was very limited. So these are the steps that really were the ones that we thought were kind of cool. The concrete ones, obviously not so much, but if you look at the line above the light, you can see where the mansion is, where the linkage is going to actually fall. So this is one of my neighbors, Helen Gallagher. This is the same presentation we showed at the HARB, and she is pointing to the space, the wall, line on the wall where the garage top will be according to the current set of plans. Helen's about 5'8", 5'9". This is a closer view. So at the building, it's about 4 feet, plus or minus. The plans currently go for the 1.3 from C, and this is, as Barron said, 4 feet above ground from current grade. So what we did is we went and measured the drawings because we've gotten a pretty good understanding of how these all work. And we're standing where the exhaust fan will come out. And according to the current set of plans, it's greater than 8 feet high from current grade. And then Helen is standing back on a hill. So as Barron said, the grade reduces, goes lower. So that's greater than 8 feet. Looking west. And the mansion is behind Helen, behind the trees. The trees, if Shade Tree, has to figure out what they're going to do, but those trees are supposed to go. So that's me standing at the lowest point on the property where the garage footprint would lie. And that's greater than 9 feet. That's looking in the same perspective, but it's just a little bit lower on the hill. I'm almost 5'8", so.
So is the stick length the height?
Correct.
Okay, there's no mark on that. That's
No,
the
that is
actual
the whole
height.
height. Both
Okay.
in both of those, that's the case.
Okay, thank you.
So that gives you a relative picture. So, I mean, I can't really do it, but it's big. So now I'm standing in exactly the same spot, looking north at in front of the Engels house, 23, and you can see if you trace the top of the stick over next to that house, the twin house, the Engels won't be able to see the second floor of that twin house. So back to the design guidelines within the purview of the HARB, it's completely changing the district context. It's changing the relationship to the buildings of the neighborhood in the district. So what made us just scratch our heads was that we were, in April, the HARB decided that the 24, the building that housed the 24 separate garages with the pathway in the center, these were the issues that concerned them, and I know that because I went back through the films. The new proposed garage, which I can't call an underground because it's no more underground than my house is. I have a basement, but I also have a 2-story house. The proposed footprint is greater than 10,000 square feet. The southeast corner is more than 9 feet high. We talked about the context of the neighborhood. The sight lines are shot for anybody on the south side of the mansion yard or the east side of the mansion yard. The north side of the mansion yard, the difference in grade is only a couple of feet, so it's not a big deal. Sight lines will radically change for those people. And the other issues we've discussed. Preservation of the relationship to the other buildings in the district, compatibility with the other buildings in the district, preservation of the character-defining development pattern of Luella Court is a center building with a flat yard surrounded by cottages. And this is 9 feet on top of that for a large part of the space. So it really isn't an underground garage. It's just a garage covered with earth. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Nolan. I live on West Avenue, and my son lives directly at the center of the horseshoe there on the east side of Luella Court, 27 Luella Court. He'd be here tonight except his family is vacationing and he's down with a bad summer cold. I basically wanted to make my comments, but I wanted to present to you first a couple of questions. Will the HARB board, who happen to be here, will you be inviting them to speak, or are they only here in the event that one of the neighbors invites them to speak?
We may ask them questions, a representative of the HARB.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I have a number of questions. For example, I came back this week, visited my son, and directly across the street I saw all the stakeout. Stakes in the ground, lines run, lines run. I was not able to get an explanation of that. And I'm just wondering how many people here in the present group are themselves wondering the same thing that I am. What is the purpose of that stakeout? I mean, I can guess, but I'd like to hear a somewhat official explanation of that.
I don't think that's a township function.
I mean, that's something the applicant can address. The applicant's
Yeah.
here tonight, so you're not, I mean,
The property owner or the applicant
Right.
may have staked it out, we don't know.
without the building
We'll
code
have them
official
address
or
I mean, this is pretty professionally staked out. This was not put out by an amateur.
All right, we'll
yeah.
have, and just to keep the meeting flowing, I'll have that question answered
All
after
right.
they come up, when they come up.
Then I guess basically I should make my own comments then at this point. But before I do that, I have one last question. Have you, the board, been to the Luella Court space and yourself seen and examined the stakeout so that you can get some sense viscerally and personally the magnitude of the landscape at the south end that Susan was just speaking about? Have you been there?
I'll just say, this is public comment. Personally, I haven't been there recently, but seeing the presentation, it was pretty compelling to see the images, so.
All right.
I
In
was
other
there,
words,
in the last few months.
Am I understanding then that the entire board is going to vote on this without even having seen?
Please don't make that assumption. I'm just saying, this is public comment. We don't want to get into debates and questions and whatnot.
All right.
I appreciate it, your understanding in that.
All right. I'm going to have to give my understanding of the stakeout. That 4-foot rise that Susan was pointing out runs presumably all the way out to the east side of the property, only to fall away rather dramatically when it gets very nearly within about 6 or 7 feet of the end of the property. Now, I walked up to the tallest stake, which is staked out, which I myself understand as being the height at which the lawn will be before it runs away at almost a 40-degree angle to the street. Now, last time I was here, I mentioned that I stood, put my hand up, and predicted that that was going to be close to 9 feet. At this particular point, a wall of grass, a mound of some kind of earth filled in with planting, etc. But it was going to be 9 feet. Now, Susan just mentioned that the stake that's in the ground, now she only indicated her own stake, but she said that was close to 9 feet. The stake that's in the ground right now, presently there, at that southeast corner, which is the corner that my son's property is on. If I hold my hand up like this and close my fist, that stake goes exactly to my knuckles. Now, there's something I'd like to point out about that. That in itself is a rather intimidating mass, clump of earthworks. But that stake is set into the soil about 6 to 7 feet in from the road. Now, you're going to have to take my word on this. You don't take my word on it, you can go over and take a look for yourself. Which means you're going to have to add whatever is the additional grade running from that stake to the street. That's 3 more feet. So I want you to imagine my knuckles with 3 more feet of a drop-off before you get to the curb line that runs around the street. Now, the last time I took math That comes out to close to 12 feet. That is a violation of space, totally inconsistent with the historical character of that building. If, for example, my son wanted to see the top of that mound earthworks, he would have to go to the second floor of his home, look out, and it would probably be very close to just his knees. This is what we're talking about. Now, I have no argument against the north side. The north side is quite consistent with logic and quite consistent with Mr. Callaway's purposes and intent. But this southeast corner has a magnitude of development, all of it a wall, a total wall of earth. So what is being replaced is we've gone from a storage locker look of exposed garages to 10 to 12 feet of mound, which is almost of the same height and magnitude as the storage lockers. Furthermore, they have an exhaust in the design. There are two stakes there, staked in for exhaust. Could the exhaust be explained? Can I get an explanation of the exhaust? Size? Will it only be running when, let's say, fumes get to a certain level? Will it run constantly? If there are going to be two of them, do they operate alternately? Do they all operate together? And particularly, I'd like to know what the decibel level of those would be.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may, and I apologize for interrupting, I think, from my perspective here, I think we're going into a whole different area than what's in front of the Board of Commissioners this evening, because a lot of issues you have regarding, there's a long process you have to go in this whole thing, but, from some of the...
Okay, Bob, I appreciate it. Yeah, Mr. Nolan, I'll ask you to wrap up. You've raised some very important historic questions about how this design fits into the HARB ordinance. You have somewhat crossed over into quality of life issues and zoning and design issues.
Right.
And all those issues will have to be vetted before a single shovel goes in that ground. So I assure you that we have a very strict construction process in the township, development process.
May I ask just one last question? Mm-hmm. At the HARB meeting the last time, HARB, at the end of the meeting, began to be concerned with the whole issue of grade. What is an allowable grade that meets code? What's the magnitude grade?
Yeah, Mr. Nolan, again, that is a zoning and design issue. That's not a HARB decision. However, the appearance of that structure that you've described and others have described certainly does fall into the purview of the HARB ordinance.
All right.
But those engineering questions you're asking really can be asked at some point, but tonight probably wouldn't be the best
Allow
time.
me then to just indicate that stake that goes up this high, and the line is introduced at this point. There's a line that runs from it to the street. Now, I put 3 years in as an engineering officer. I've been done midden watches, et cetera, for years when I was in, and I don't regard my sense of space as being all that faulty. That grade from that line to the street, as it presently exists, is at least 40 degrees.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any further public comment? And we will hear from the applicant as well. Let's allow the public comment to come up.
My name is Cliff Fleming. I live at 17 Luella Court. own a property at 29 Luella Court. Having walked around the lines that have been described tonight with the contractor, Cass Holloway, my perspective, because all of this and the entrance of the garage are most directly affecting number 17 Luella Court. Further comments tonight are indicating that there's a wall on the east end of the horseshoe that will definitely be visible from my rental property at 29 Luella Court. On the subject of the exhaust, that probably will not even run. And you're expecting every car in there to be idling to activate that exhaust. That's not going to happen. Right? ADA and some other organizations require exhausts. So it has to be, somehow. There's going to be an exhaust there. However it's hidden is not an issue here. But having walked around there with my wife this morning, we agreed that it's an acceptable approach to beautifying an existing place. The level on the north side will not affect anybody who wants to walk their dog on the property, which is often done, and it is private property. So the speaker that was up here earlier, who often walks her dog on that property, can still do that if it's allowed. So I would just say that, you know, this is private property, but it's not honored as private property by some people on the court. So let's stick with what is, okay? All right. And so the existing lines have been explained to me. We like it. It's going to be a much better improvement of what's there, and trees will beautify the place, and progress may not always be initially attractive, but given time, it will be more attractive. When that mansion was built in the first place, there were probably some objections to a big mansion on the hill, but people got over it. That's all I have to say about this.
Thank you. Any further public comment? At this point, I'll invite the applicant to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Point of order.
Yes.
We're considering the HARB's recommendation to us, and we had public comment. Are we cross-examining the applicant, or is it up to the applicant whether they want to speak as part of public comment?
I'm not demanding them to come up, but I saw them getting out of their chair a few times, so I think
Right.
you do want to speak. You're welcome to speak. If you don't want to speak, you don't need to.
I'd like to speak, though I'd like to keep it as brief as possible, because ultimately I'd like to hear what the HARB has to say. I think many of the questions before this board tonight deal with whether or not they believe, as is their task, that the proposed garage is consistent with their charge, which is that it would be consistent with the HARB ordinance and the surrounding neighborhood. Just a couple of quick comments to what we heard from the neighbors. To this point, we've heard a lot, and I think we've come a long way. We heard a lot at the previous HARB meeting. We want to get it right. Let's get this right. Let's do the right thing. To that end, the HARB was charged with looking at one issue. They looked at everything. And Mr. Gemmer brought it up perfectly. At first it was, let's focus on the issue. As the meeting went on, they ultimately opined after they issued their decision as to how this would impact everything. They looked at grade. They opined on grade. It's not their charge, specifically grade analysis. That's more of a land development issue, which you've brought up tonight. But they've looked at it, and I think that's important because they're trying to get it right. We heard tonight, which we've heard a few times, but it's never really been focused on, and I think I was happy to hear it tonight. We want to see what's best for the mansion, the true historic structure out there. I can't think of a better project to preserve that mansion for years to come. This is what's best for that mansion. The garage was originally above ground garage. The HARB was clear. This board was clear. The massing wasn't right. Come back with something underground. You can call it anything you want. The structure is below grade. It's below the ground. There's a drastic change in grade on this property. It needs to be flat. It's going to be a flat area. We're preserving that open space, that open feel everybody wanted. We've worked with the HARB. Unless I'm mistaken from our last meeting with them, this is the way to roll. So I'd love to hear what the HARB has to say and reserve any comment to that, but that's all the applicant has to say at this point.
Sorry, could you state your name for the record?
David Falcone
Okay, thank you.
with Saul Ewing on behalf of Kaz Holloway. Before I sit, do y'all have any questions for me?
No.
Thank you.
Does any member of the Board of Commissioners wish to hear from the HARB?
Yeah, I'd like John or somebody, somebody to come up and answer a couple quick questions, whoever you want to designate.
Good evening.
Do you think you fully understood the materials put in front of you when you approved this?
That particular plan was not one that I had seen because I was not at that meeting. And I had concerns about that. And at the last meeting, which we were looking at another issue, all this talk came about again about heights and so forth. And the community was upset. They made some presentations. We looked at it a little closer. And it was realized that these elevations were a little bit out of what we really had thought was there. So what we had asked Kaz to do was to stake out what the approved plan was and what those heights were. And he strung a yellow line that would show what that was around the property. Additionally,
Did he do that before or after the meeting?
that was after.
So you approved this in the absence of seeing that?
It was the
When I
HARB
say
did,
you, I
yes.
meant the HARB.
Yeah,
I don't
the
mean
HARB.
you personally.
Yeah, the HARB did. And that turned out to be something that I don't think it was very clear in the plans, that was exactly what was going on. If you looked at it really carefully, and I looked at it subsequent to that meeting, and you could see it, I would have probably disapproved that plan. But
Is that, when you say you, that, or I?
personally.
Okay.
But it would have
How
been,
many members of the HARB are here? 1, 2, 4, 5?
there's 3, I think.
No, I see this one at the back too.
Okay.
So,
But, there would have been a quorum. It doesn't matter. That's what happened. So I've been working with Kaz to say, look, this thing, we need to figure out something on this. And in the last week, we've arrived at some options where this building actually is sloped so it drops 3 feet all along that southern wall, or the southern side. And I asked him to string that line up as well, which is, I think, a green line. And to have the two as comparisons. Now, there was a debate whether this would create hysteria in the neighborhood, which I think it probably did, but he was trying to, meet with everybody and kind of say, okay, this is what's going on, and, we're trying to make it better. So, in addition, we were trying to slide the entry up towards the west to put it more in front of the commercial property, which also allowed us from that point to slope the building all the way down towards the ventilation area or the eastern end. That's where you get that 3-foot drop. So if you were, 8.5 or 9 feet, you're now down at 6 feet, which is significant. The thing that we're trying to do is maintain an open space and an open view shed. And it's really difficult to do with anything that's above ground. And the original plan that he proposed was 24 parking spaces in one big mass, which ultimately would have been 25 feet high on that one corner probably, if you projected the grade out. So we said, let's do this all underground. This is the only way this is going to work. If you did it just on grade as a parking lot, if this building were to be brought into compliance today, it has 25 units, you'd have to have 50 parking spaces. So there'd be 30 spaces. The code says you then have to split that off and put 20 somewhere else. You have to have planning areas in between every 10. There's not space on the site to do that. So he's reducing the number of units to 12, so you have 24. If you take the footprint that's there now that shows 24 and you stuck that as an above ground, you'd still need to split it off into parking islands and some other things. And I think you'd have some problems with setbacks. So we were saying the only solution is really to go underground. Now it's underground, but it wasn't perfectly underground. So we're trying to iron that out. And I think he's going very hard to do that, and we're trying to show what we can do to make that work. ultimately, what we want to have happen is that there's an open space, it's a green space, and all of the residences around the horseshoe are able to look across and see what they had been able to see before, or closest to that. It probably will not be exactly the same, but you will have a landscaped area there, which is open, and that's the end goal. So that's kind of where we are, and he should probably talk about those specific issues, but that was our thinking. And if anybody else went in there and said, I want to develop this property, and it's not him, the issues are the same. There's a parking issue. You do it above ground in a building, you do it above ground flat, or you go underground, you've got all the same issues. It's an R4 in a business overlay district, but it's this island in there, so you don't get any credits unless, you go through some kind of other process for parking. You still have to do 2 for 1 unit.
Your answers kind of perplex me, because maybe simply the way I processed it, but what I processed is that you approved something without being fully comfortable, because you went back after you approved it. So I'm a little confused.
Well, I think it was approved based on the information that was given at a meeting, and it probably was not fully understood at that meeting.
Well, let me ask a very simple question. The representatives of HARB, are they in favor of us approving this, or they want us to reject it and have it looked at again? Because if you're telling me you made a decision without complete information, perhaps would have voted differently, then I have a different opinion. I mean, if you can sit there and tell me that it complies with the HARB ordinance and you're in agreement with that, then I think we stand behind the judgment you made. But I'm not sure what your judgment is right now.
Well, I can only speak for myself.
Kevin, let me ask Mr. Rice, what are the options we have here? Because I'll just speak briefly. I think the applicant's trying their best to do something here to improve that structure. I think the residents are trying to preserve the character of their historic district. Everyone wants the best thing for this. But John, what can we do? We can approve this, we can deny this, or modify it.
You can, right, that's basically your choices under 178.8. If you deny it or you reverse the recommendation, then you've got to put that in writing. They have a right to appeal that, and you go down that path. But if this is a question of grade, and we're talking about now, what I'm hearing is the orange line that went around the property, now we're down to from 9 feet down to 6 feet. Can it go down further? Can it go down another 3 feet? Is it as simple? Can the board simply approve this with that grade being reduced another 3 feet?
Well, that's up to you.
Yeah, and the other,
I mean, that would be a modification of what's been.
Isn't that a significant procedural error? I mean, we have a HARB, we have a process, the applicant went through it, and then based on a very limited amount of information, we're going to take action that's contrary to the recommendation that came to us. So I'm troubled by the procedure. I don't know if anyone else is.
I mean,
Tom, I agree with you. The issue tonight is the HARB recommendation to us. Unless the HARB wants to stand up right now and say, no, we reconsider. But what I saw at your meeting, that actually was thrown on the table at the end of the meeting, and you folks didn't choose to reconsider. So therefore, we have other processes that are going to go forward that will address many of the concerns the neighbors have. But in the narrow question is, has the HARB ordinance been satisfied?
Mr. Chairman, again, we're having the third HARB meeting here this evening.
Right.
I mean, the HARB already met twice on the issue. They've made a recommendation twice to the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners, I believe, need to make a decision one way or the other. I mean, vote it yes, no, or modify that decision. But to continue to go on, I don't think you can have the HARB right now at this time actually making some type of other decision outside their, the notice, the Sunshine Act, I mean, all those issues too, to have them go through this. I mean, the information is there. You've heard from residents, their concerns. So it's, in my opinion, it's time for the Board of Commissioners to make a decision.
Okay.
If I could just...
Bob, I just want to counter that a little bit. This process is not, it's not redundant. This is an important process. I think it actually helps the applicants. I'd actually be very happy to be sitting in a Board of Commissioners meeting and not paying the high fees of a zoning hearing board meeting. So, you know, in some ways it's beneficial. I think it will end up with a better product when you're done. So I'm hoping it's beneficial.
So based on some of the discussions that Kaz had with Cam and with the other members of the HARB, and based on the comments made at the HARB meeting, Kaz has tweaked the plan, and he has a tweaked plan here. And I asked Mr. Rice if this board could see that plan and make a recommendation of modifying the HARB's decision. And he said that would be okay. And that plan will show the grade reduced 3 feet. It's important to know, and this is just, I think Cam was there as well, Kaz did borings to see if there'd be any stone, any blasting that would be needed to drop the garage. There's not, but this is as deep as he can go. But I think a 3-foot drop is significant when you're talking about changing the grade 3 feet. That's going in the direction that the HARB had asked us to go, and I was not at the meetings, but I know Cam was with Kaz and some other members, and I think that speaks to what they talked about. They talked about a new entrance location, not changing any of the connection points that would bring it back before the HARB. Still going to demolish that existing garage, which was on the application. The connection would be identical, so that wouldn't change. It would simply be a drop in the grade and a shift in the opening to get it away from the neighbors and into the commercial area. We spoke to Cliff. He saw that. His wife, they were very happy with it. They're the ones that are impacted by that opening. So if this board would want to see that plan, we'd love to show it. I think it gets at where we were going. And again, Mr. Rice said that would be an appropriate modification of their decision. But I think it's important that at least Cam address whether or not they believed this is consistent with, as it was approved, not modified, consistent with their HARB ordinance, whether this impacts that HARB district. And it was my understanding that they do believe an underground garage, the demolition of those stairs, which was their charge at the last meeting, and the covering of the windows is consistent with their ordinance. So I don't want to speak for Cam or the board.
Well, I think there's two things. One is you've been asked to look at what we did last time, which was the focus, was just the connector. You would ask us to go back and look at that. And we approved that. And that's kind of what this meeting is supposed to say okay with. Now, if you want to go back and say, we didn't see what we saw before clearly enough and we need to relook at it, or it's approved based on this, I think there are two issues maybe. I may be wrong, but I think that, there is a clear, you told us to look at something specific, which we did, and then we opened it up for discussion after that in our meeting and discussed further these heights and things that could be done. And, within the last week and a half, we've arrived at better solutions based on that. So we've polled our members, and everybody feels like they could get behind this plan at the lower elevation, given that anything else, you'd have to build up a plateau for above ground parking, then you'd have light standards. I mean, it's a whole nother level of problem. And if we can minimize that problem and still have a successful compliance and get those view sheds and all the things that we're in charge of, that's what we're for that. And we'd like to make this process, get it forward, move forward.
All right, John. I appreciate your comments. Okay. Any further board questions?
I'd like to move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness conditioned upon the reduction in the floor elevation by additional 3 feet at the eastern end of the garage.
And it may be
sloping to that.
I think it's
Do I have a
actually
second
more
on
than
that?
that, but.
Does the applicant think that's a reasonable consideration? Yes. And then, are there going to be unforeseen consequences? Is there going to be at a subsequent meeting where someone is unhappy about this change that would make
There's always going to be.
It seems
someone.
minor to you now.
That's Radnor.
Within HARB or within the community, or?
But within HARB would be that's the question at the moment.
My feeling within HARB is that we're behind it, I guess. You guys are all, you guys.
So I don't think that's appropriate to Yeah.
We can't
I mean,
vote
I
on
don't
it.
think we can take a vote on it, so just,
No, wait a minute, hold on, no, we have, under the ordinance, we have the ability to accept, reverse, or modify the HARB's recommendation. And and John Rice, correct me if I'm wrong, but this 3-foot drop in elevation is a modification.
It's a modification of.
And it's been moved that way and seconded that way. So we have a motion on the table, it's been seconded. Any further board comment on this?
Just one issue. There's plans here that show that.
Yeah.
Let's identify the plans.
There's also an entry shift as well, which should be noted.
I mean, the representation is that there's plans, so let's just, before the board votes, let's identify them, what the dates are.
and Bob Ziankowski, this is consistent with your advice to us, that this was, in your opinion, inappropriate.
And it's a 3-foot drop.
Is it a 3-foot uniform drop across the,
It starts at the building and comes down 3 feet, so that at the edge it's at the eastern edge, it'll be 3 foot
so
lower.
the grade will be increased?
It'll be decreased across.
Yes.
So instead of being at 9 feet at your end point, now you're going to be at 6 feet.
Right, so you'll have steeper grade from that.
Inside the garage, yes.
Can you identify that drawing by title block, something that we'll be able to
With the
identify
date.
the drawing? Is there a title block with a date?
It's dated July 18th. It's
July
dated
18th,
today.
okay. And that shows the elevation change?
Yes. It shows the elevation change on this end of the building. It also has, we have two possibilities. We can lower the existing plan with the existing entrance 3 feet at that end, or we can move the entrance, which helps the Flemings, because this is the plan that's approved, that was recommended by HARB, and shows the entrance, and this shows the entrance moved to the west that eliminates the headlights coming out and shining into the Fleming's home.
Aren't we just transferring the problem to some other resident?
Well, to the commercial area.
No, actually, it's moving it beyond this entrance. We also have,
But in the context of what we're doing tonight, wherever that entrance is, the current location or the one shown in these drawings doesn't have a bearing on historical issues.
no.
I think it's important, I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Nichols. It's the exact same connection for HARB purposes
Right.
with the building. Same stairs, same windows covered, no
So
change in
those-
connection.
those details will be fleshed out at one of the subsequent meetings.
Absolutely.
So tonight, the only historical question that you're asking us to perhaps make a modification is the grade at that eastern end can be lowered.
Change the grade 3 feet. And, you can say explore opening if you want, but it's something that will come up in land development, zoning,
Right.
absolutely. Because, again, the connection to the building will not change. So the demolition of those stairs is the same, demolition of the existing above-ground garage, everything that we needed to apply to the HARB 4 remains exactly the same.
The covering of the windows.
Yes,
Did I
same coverage.
misunderstand your comment? I thought you said the garage was now moving over too.
No, the entrance
The entrance.
point.
So in addition to
Well, we can
the
explore the entrance
grade
point.
being changed from what was approved at the HARB, you're also discussing moving the entrance from
That-
what was approved at
That
the
is
HARB.
something that Mr. Holloway
That
discussed.
wasn't part of your motion.
That's not
though.
part of my motion because it has no bearing on the issue tonight, which is the historical perspective.
In my
Right.
opinion, the motion's complete.
The motion's complete.
Okay.
We're
Call the vote.
accepting the approval for certificate of appropriateness of the HARB 2011-18 with the condition of a 3-foot drop in elevation on the southeast corner. Any further board comment? Mr. Rice, do I have to put this back to public comment? We've already heard from the public.
You've heard public comment. Public comment's over. I mean, the public has the right to comment before you vote. It's up to you as the chair.
Would someone like to be the duly appointed speaker of the public to come up and give a brief response to what is being discussed right now?
Yes, thank you. Again, Susan Byrne from Luella Court. As I understand the practical nature of the way these things are set up, there's a 15-day submission period for the HARB where the plans can be reviewed and it gives everyone else a chance to take a look at this. This plan has not been seen by everyone. It's, I believe, really in its infancy stages. There is a moved door. We have not had that opportunity. And so I don't think, while I understand you can make recommendations, you're never going to, you won't get the influence of what we think to create this better outcome. And it isn't just lowering it. It's moving things. And there are lots of details in this plan that are not forthcoming and coming at little tiny pieces. And if we don't get that opportunity to take a look at it, I don't think that's the way this whole thing was designed to be. That's my comment. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Well, I'll just make a comment before I put this to a vote. I believe there's a process in play here that's a good one. I think the fact that the public has had so much time to be part of this process is a good thing. I also have a lot of faith in the zoning process and the Saldo process, so I don't think this is the end of the story. I think there's going to be a lot more debate. There's going to be a lot more input from the public on this plan. Some of this plan may not even make it through zoning. I don't know. I'm not a zoning officer. I have no idea what in this drawing will work and what won't work. So I'm going to support this HARB decision, the motion that's on the table, only because I think it's only fair to move the process along. But I really do hope that the applicant and the members of the residents continue to work very closely together, because this will most likely come back to the Board of Commissioners with conditions. And I'll be looking very closely, personally, at those conditions to make sure that we are doing the best we can to give the neighborhood the viewshed that they deserve, to maintain the character of that neighborhood, and also come to a win-win where you preserve this mansion. So I appreciate everyone that's been here tonight on this.
No.
No, we're done. We finished.
I have
public
one
comment.
question for John Rice. Any reaction to the comment on the 15 days?
That's for a totally new application is the way I would read that. I mean, you have the authority, once you get the HARB recommendation, which you have, to then vote on it, finally vote on it. And it says approve the application, authorize a certificate of appropriateness with modifications to the HARB recommendation. So, you know, you're not going to start the whole process over because of the 3-foot change. I would say, though, we'd like a set of those plans left here so that we have that record, assuming the board's going to go ahead and vote.
We were just discussing procedural. We had, I had missed this. We had a motion on the table to accept the HARB approval, but then we had a second, and that was second. We have a second motion on the table to approve it with a modification. So we're going to vote on the modification first, and then we'll vote on the approval second. Okay, all those in favor of the modification say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 4-0. Now we'll vote on the approval of the certificate of appropriateness with that amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 4-0. Thank you for your comments and your participation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
John.
Okay, we'll resume the meeting now. Mr. Curley.
I move that the approval of Resolution 2011-93, amending fee schedule, Chapter 156, electrical refund request, 10% of existing permit fee or and 10% minimum, whichever is greater. So with the change, modifying that to a $20 minimum or whichever is greater from.
Second.
I don't think that's. I don't think the way it was characterized is accurate. I think Bob is the.
There's a typo on item
Is
B.
the resolution accurate and the agenda wrong?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the agenda is incorrect in that it says the minimum of $20. That should be $10. So it'll be 10% or $10.
So the resolution itself, 2011-93, as written, is correct?
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yes,
All right.
yes.
Okay.
And the other item is that it'll apply throughout the fee schedule, not just the Chapter 156 section. That is to make the entire fee schedule consistent between the departments so the township has one refund policy or one refund charge instead of multiple.
Commissioner Curley, will you just restate your motion, please?
Well, why don't you just approve the resolution as printed?
Yeah, approve the resolution 2011-93.
As printed, I'll second.
Okay, any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0, noting Commissioner Nagel's absence on that vote.
I move the approval of resolution 2011-94.
Second?
Moved and second. Any commissioner comment? Any public comment?
Do you want some background information on that?
No.
Mr. Chairman?
We're just
Okay.
voting.
No, thank you.
Just let us vote. We can talk all night. It's usually $150 to get a certificate of occupancy, but some realtors sell houses and they want to settle in a week or two, so they're going to have to pay $300. It's that simple.
It's an expedite fee. Okay,
That covers it.
I think I put it to public comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I move the approval of resolution 2011-97.
Second?
Board comment. Public comment. Excuse me one second.
No, don't take a second.
Just-
Just call the vote.
How did it take longer? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? If you want to know why I pause, I have to write down the notes, otherwise we have no minutes for the meeting, so I appreciate your patience.
I move the resolution, I move the approval of resolution 2011-96.
Second?
Moved and second, Commissioner comment. Public comment.
I have a question. Is this intended, I guess the question is, I know that there's a principal. Where's John? He's back there talking to Barron.
Yeah, Barron told
Mr. Rice?
ties us up.
Do you have a moment?
John, I have a question for you. The software that we're talking about here is one of the principals of the company, I think, has acted as an advisor to us. Is there anything we need to be concerned about?
This software now, this is the community development software. Do you have a representative, if you have any questions about the software itself, but it's been through a similar process starting in May of last year. We had RFPs, and this was the software that we're recommending, and we're only authorizing to move forward in this, and obviously I'm serving as interim director, so we'll want whoever comes in, if it's myself or someone else, to make a final decision on this. We want to keep the process moving forward.
So this is only to execute agreements, this is not to actually expend the money necessarily, or?
Would have to come back, once
going
we
to come
approve
back
the
to us.
agreements, they would come back for final approval with you. We just want your approval to move forward with this, with the vendor to negotiate those agreements.
Can you explain to me what year 2 maintenance? It says it's increased annually based on a 4% base percentage plus, sounds like there's a CPI kicker on top of that.
Yeah, we have 2 representatives from the company here who could talk a little bit about that. That's Allison and Rachel. Again, that'll be something that we would work with the solicitor to make a final agreement on, if they're still here. I'm not sure if they're... Okay, great. If you could just come up real quick and answer that one question.
Yeah, very brief synopsis. I'll just comment, I was invited in on the meetings when this software was presented to community development, and I was very impressed in how it integrates all the data concerning plan applications, zoning. It just pulls everything together. It uses GIS mapping, and it allows us to capture all the documents electronically so we can't lose them, misplace them, or have them damaged or lost. Please present. Thank you.
Very good summary. Thank you so much for having us. And yes, our company is CSI, Computer Software, Inc. We're based out of Bucks County. I'm personally right here out of Wayne, so not much of a drive for me. But we've been in business for 30 years, and that's exactly what the software does. It automates all the day-to-day processes associated with community development and code enforcement, permitting, inspections, fully integrated with GIS, as well as has a customer-facing component of it, which is a customer web portal that allows your customers to go on, view the GIS data, search for their property, pull up their property, submit any issues or requests for service that they may have through this portal. So there's that component, as well as an optional mobile component, which would mobilize your field staff and allow them to perform work in the field using a variety of different devices that we offer and support, but allows them to be real-time in connection with the office, receiving notifications and passing inspections, so that all that can be seamlessly then communicated back to contractors and other customers.
What's the logic of the 4% increase plus the CPI kicker?
So that's just that's assessed annually as potential increase, and it's just a calculation that has always been a part of our contracts. I mean, certainly we can discuss it further. We do have certain contracts where there's a set increase year after year that we've negotiated in times past. So our customer support is very robust. So we, principally have the increase in place due to the fact that we don't outsource any of our services. Our implementation, as well as our customer support development, is all done in-house. We have guarantees like unlimited additional reports for the lifetime of the product. So if there's ever a report that you find you need to run that isn't in the existing reports library in the software, you request it, and there's a guaranteed 2-week turnaround time of us writing that additional report for you and adding it to the library, as well as things like free retraining for all the users for the lifetime of the product. So services like that we offer that need to be in place such that we can increase our staff as we continue to increase our number of clientele and make sure that we're still providing that optimum service level.
Doesn't make sense to me the way you described it. It would seem to me that it should be in your base pricing. And secondly, since what I suspect is your business is largely a fixed cost operation, since you write the software and it's out there, and if we're not your first client, you essentially become largely pure profit at the end. So I'm a little confused as to why. And Bob, I assume you're going to negotiate something differently, so I'm not going to beat this horse to death. But I have a problem with a 4% annual increase with the CPI kicker on top of that. I think you have your rate, and I would be okay if it said CPI on top of that, recognizing that there certainly is a cost of doing business. But I think you ought to look at that element of it.
Yeah, I think one thing that we include as part of our support and maintenance program is the upgrades and the updates of the software. So, you don't have us coming to you a couple of years down the line and pitching to you our newest, latest version of the software. You're guaranteed to receive all those updates at a minimum of a quarterly basis. You receive all those updates throughout your lifetime with us. So that's part of what's also built into our support and maintenance program.
All right. Moved and seconded. Any further commissioner comment? And I'm sorry, I apologize. Who was that? Commissioner Curley that moved, and Spengler, were you second on that? Yep. Commissioner Spengler? All right. Public comment.
Thank you, guys. You can stay.
Thank you. Yeah, you can sit down. I appreciate it. We'll look to have you come back maybe later on when you're doing the implementation. So I appreciate it. Okay. All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I motion that we appoint Ray Daly as the building code official.
Second.
Any board comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Welcome, Ray, to the
I
Building
motion
Codes
that we
Office.
appoint Bill Miller as the zoning officer.
Second.
It'll be it'll be an interim appointment
Very good, as the interim zoning officer.
Second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I motion to authorize a part-time, third-party code inspection service not to exceed $11,424, Keystone Municipal Service, Inc.
Second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner Curley. Commissioner Higgins, Finance and Audit.
The first item on the agenda is the schedule of bills payable identified as 2011-7A for a grand total of authorized disbursements of $2,587,541.62. And these bills have been approved by the department heads and verified by the Finance Department and within the budgetary limits we approved for this year. So I make a motion to approve.
Second?
Board comment?
Yes, please note my recusal on the line items involving office basics.
So noted. Any public comment?
Well, Bill, on page 9, we have a knockdown 30 in Radnor, Chester. What was that, a pole that got knocked down in an accident and had to be replaced? It's under traffic signals, about second line down.
Yeah, I don't know the exact cause behind that check off the top of my head. If Mr. Norsini doesn't know either, that's certainly something we can look up and get back to the board
I was
right
just
away.
curious because I don't
Sure.
remember the accident.
Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Right, the next item on the agenda is Resolution 2011-88 for the township manager to authorizing the township manager to execute agreements for a business tax software. And I guess I asked my question in the wrong spot, John. I think one of the principles of this has acted as an advisor to us. Is there any issue with that?
I don't believe so. I mean, they're the business tax counsel for the township. This is a separate service that they're providing from the legal services.
And we also did RFQs to make sure that there were other possible vendors out there that could provide similar service, and we received the 2 quotes, and one of them didn't, this other vendor did not cover local services taxes at all, which is why we're moving
I
forward.
make a motion to approve.
Second?
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner Higgins. Commissioner Nagel, Parks and Recreation.
Tammy, would you please give us a little rundown on the Radnor Clean and Green initiative?
Absolutely. The Radnor Clean and Green Initiative has begun as an exciting new community-wide initiative. Jim, can you put this up? Thank you. This is an exciting new community-wide initiative geared towards keeping Radnor Township clean and green. This effort is aimed at providing education and resources to encourage everyone in the community on what they can do to improve and maintain the quality of life by taking some simple steps, and also reminding others to do the same within the community. We encourage people at home and in the community to do things such as create and use their own compost by using it as a healthy treat for their garden rather than adding it to a landfill. Help stop stormwater pollution by not dumping trash or harsh chemicals or litter down the drain into the storm drains and having downspouts discharge into the lawn instead of driveways. Rethinking products that you use by replacing or eliminating pesticides or any type of weed killer that may end up in the water supply. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. We can't emphasize that enough. And also take advantage of Radnor's single-stream recycling program. Keep your own property litter-free and help pitch in the community and businesses in downtown. Take pride in your parks, especially picking up after your dog and placing placing their waste in the trash. Ultimately, by letting this stay on the ground, it can potentially contaminate the water supply by adding bacteria to it. Organize and take part in your local cleanups. More events and programs are going to be planned in the coming months and upcoming year. We want to be sure to encourage families, friends, neighbors, and everybody to do their part, essentially to keep Radnor clean and green. We're currently collaborating with many of the campers and the staff at Radnor Day Camp and the Summer Tot Lot program to parallel basically our initiative and tie in with their theme weeks such as the Recycling Theme Week at Radnor Day Camp. And we're also getting the message out through a number of other camps and programs that we have going on in the township this summer, and we plan to continue to do so in the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
Great work.
If you don't mind, could I also take an opportunity to talk a little bit about some of the other upcoming events that we have in Parks and Recreation?
Sure.
Please do.
Okay. The Radnor Summer Concert Series is underway. We currently have 3 concert nights that remain. On this Wednesday, July 20th, we're going to be over at Radnor Elementary School. And we are featuring a new band this year called Diverse. It's a teen pop group. The rain date for that event is Thursday, July 21st. Then next week we head over to Clemacrone Park, and we feature Midlife Crisis, a band that's back from us from last year, which is a doo-wop soul and rock and roll band. Rain date for that event is the Thursday, July 28th. And then we finalize the concert series on Wednesday, August 3rd, over at St. David's Community Park. We feature Yossi, which is a family and interactive children's show. The rain date for that event is on Thursday, August 4th. I also want to take an opportunity as part of the Radnor Summer Concert Series to thank and highlight our sponsors, specifically TD Bank and Pico Energy, for their monetary donations to help us fund the concert series, along with Wegmans and Wawa, who's helped us purchase drinks for the event. Also, I'm very proud to announce that we have 2 new sponsors that we'd like to highlight, which helps us return the free ice cream to the concert night. So I think a lot of folks will be happy about that. And that would be made possible by the Carol H. Axelrod Blood Drive. And Dan Skolnick is actually with us here tonight in the audience, so I want to thank you. And also Sila Heating and Air Conditioning of King of Prussia. They're also contributing some ice cream as well. So thank you for those sponsors, for their generous involvement with the program and helping to make it possible and continue with its success. We also have an upcoming trip on Friday, September 2nd, to see the U.S. Open Tennis Championships in New York City. We have an exciting new excursion that'll be coming up on Saturday, August 27th, to the Little League World Series. And our department also has its discount coupon to local amusement parks available. So if everybody could call for details if they're interested in any of that information, we'll be happy to point them in the right direction and get them registered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, I'd move the introduction or the approval of Resolution 2011-88, which is to direct.
It should be 95.
95, I'm sorry. This is an amendment to a prior resolution authorizing the township to amend the agreement we had originally with Brandywine Learning Center for 2 of the Harry Potter Magical University camps to increase the not-to-exceed amount by to $25,000. This was done, this is necessary because the camp has been tremendously successful, and with the subscriptions being higher, the amount we'll be paying to Brandywine is higher.
I move the approval of the resolution.
I already did that.
I'll second it.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
That's it for Parks and Rec.
Thank you, Commissioner Nagel. Under Personnel, I have the first item is the Rising Above Recognition Program. I think it was just a month ago, it seems like, that I asked Mr. Zinkowski that we come up with a recognition program to recognize those in staff and community that rise above and do good things in the township. And I just want to thank staff and Bob and everyone for working on this and pulling it together so quickly. So thank you.
Yeah, he wanted
in advance.
to.
Well, I'll be brief, given the agenda and the other things we have going on tonight. But what Mr. Zinkowski asked, Recreation Director Tammy Cohen, Superintendent Bill Colarulu, Public Works Superintendent Paul Basic, and me to work on together was to come up with the Rising Above Award Program. So the 4 of us have been working over the last couple of weeks to put together what you have in your packets for tonight. The overall goal was to create an award and ceremony that would recognize the outstanding Radnor citizens, both young and old, or adult and pre-adult, businesses, community organizations, and employees. So there's 5 different categories that someone could be recognized for the award. Included in the packets is an outline of the award criteria for each of the 5 categories, an outline of the panel that would be created to go through all the nominations, ultimately select the award winners for each of the 5 categories. And then finally, we put together what the process would look like. So the 5 categories, the first one being the Radnor Township Outstanding Community Service Award, would be the award for any candidates that would exemplify civic responsibility, promote community achievement, and champion efforts to improve the quality of life of Radnor Township. In several of the areas that are listed, the person would be 18 years of older and must be a Radnor resident for more than 1 year. The next criteria would be the Future of Radnor Award. The intention of that would be the same type of criteria as the Outstanding Community Service Award, except for someone who is not yet 18 years old. So someone in the community that's younger than 18 doing outstanding things for the community. The third criteria would be an Outstanding Business Award. Again, the same type of the same kind of thought, except recognizing an actual business for going above and beyond for the community. And then a community organization. Again, the Radnor Township is blessed to have a great number of community organizations that care very much about the community, so we felt it important to recognize one of those community organizations who is rising above. And then finally, an Outstanding Employee Performance Award as well, and that is to recognize one of the Radnor Township employees for going above and beyond and doing excellent work, again, all in the effort of promoting Radnor Township and rising above. The nomination criteria, we kept it open. We said basically anyone who is willing to go to bat for somebody else would be eligible then to fill out the nomination form and nominate a person. Again, those who are being nominated have to fit the criteria that was developed. And we've included in the packet a draft nomination form. Ultimately, the Rising Above Award panel would be the group that would be selected. We've included in there an outline of who would make up that panel, who would appoint the members, and the responsibilities of that panel. And basically, this would be the group in charge of making sure that the award program and the ceremony was successful on an annual basis. Ultimately, they're the ones who review the nominations, narrow down the finalists, select the award winners, and put together the agenda for the award ceremony. Which segues into the timeline and the ceremony details. We chose an annual award. Again, the thought process behind that was to really magnify and emphasize the importance of it. Basically, you have one shot per year to win this, so it opens up the opportunity, but it also at the same time, if someone is, or when someone is awarded this, it's something that only happens annually. It magnifies the importance of it and really emphasizes how much the township is recognizing that individual business or community organization. The process is outlined there that the panel selection basically would start sometime in August, with the deadline being at the end of December, so the panel's formed by the end of the year. The nomination window would be January, so there'd be a 31-day nominating period in January. Then the review panel would narrow down the finalists to 3 finalists in each of the 5 categories, with the intention being that all of those finalists would gather at some event or ceremony on their own special night without knowing yet who the winner is. And the idea behind the ceremony would then be to recognize all the finalists and have each finalist have a representative come up, speak to why that person is entity is award worthy, and then that night the actual award winner would be announced. So that is the Rising Above Award in less than 10 minutes. Hopefully this is something that that has a lot of traction and something we can consider approving in an effort, again, to really to create a program that focuses on some of the great things that are happening here, and it gives us an opportunity to do this collaboratively. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now.
I have
Otherwise,
two.
thank you for a few moments.
I have two. First,
Yes.
I think it's an excellent idea. At the bottom of page 5, it says rising above award advertising. Do you mean that that's the announcing the process for nominating people, or is that after the fact publicity for the winners?
The intention there was the advertising of the award and process itself, to try to get the word out about the award, to raise awareness on nominations. But certainly those same avenues could be used to promote whoever wins it and
I was more concerned
celebrate
to make
those
sure we
winners.
generate nominations. And the other suggestion I would have is, we often get letters complimentary on either individual employees or actions that Eagle Scouts or people have taken. And perhaps, I don't know, Bill, if you're the owner of the program or somebody would just, I suggest maybe you kind of keep a list during the year of, if Mary Smith says, Ray Daly did a great job, or, Susie Jones says, George Smith did a great job, that somebody just puts it in a tickler file, then you can reach out to those folks during the nomination period to remind them that you sent this letter in, May. And, in case you haven't been aware of the fact this program exists, and you may want to submit a nomination for somebody that you submitted a complimentary letter for. So that was my two questions, comments.
Excellent idea.
Great job to all of you.
Bill, this is great. One additional thing, Bob, and I think you and I might have talked about it, is in the past, and I don't know when we stopped doing this, we each year would honor folks who had been serving on our boards and commissions who had completed their terms, and that's fallen by the wayside. And I'd love to see us get back to that too, and it could be done in conjunction with this, perhaps.
Thank you for the few moments of time. And again, I was elected the spokesperson. Mr. Kalarulu, Ms. Cohen, Mr. Basic, this was a team effort. So,
Thank you again. All right. Item N was the adoption of ordinance 2011-18. I had announced earlier in the meeting that we would postpone this to a future meeting because we have some potential changes in that. So I'll have a motion. I'll move to postpone this adoption to a later date.
Second.
Okay. Any board comment? Any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And the last is an announcement that we have a vacancy on the Planning Commission. Please send your letter of interest to Bob Zinkowski, Township Manager, at 301 Ivan Avenue, Wayne, Pennsylvania, 19087. That's it for Personnel Administration. Under Public Safety, Commissioner Mahoney's... Yeah, I did. Commissioner Mahoney is absent. I will take his items. And let me just pull those out real quick. Excuse me.
First one is a motion regarding traffic calming measures.
Thank you.
Sergeant Smith, want to address that? Are you going to?
Okay.
Are you going to address it, or?
This is in regards to the
Yes.
motion regarding traffic calming measures on South Aberdeen Avenue. Yes, Commissioner. One of the things we had, residents from South Aberdeen Avenue were concerned about the speed and the safety of their children. Sergeant Smith and the Traffic Safety Unit did initial studies determining whether or not it met the requirements for speed humps. The initial requirement was that it did not. However, we did some other measures, such as installing a temporary speed cushion and looking at the daily traffic flow. Based on those tests that we did determine there was a significant decrease in speed, and based on that, we recommended 2 permanent speed humps be installed on South Aberdeen Avenue.
Okay, I'll move the approval.
Second.
Board comment. Seeing none, any public comment?
Excuse me.
My name is Daniel Skolnick, and I live on South Wayne Avenue. And first, let me start out. I am speaking here not because traffic safety is a bad thing in improving it. It's obviously a very good thing. I'm speaking here tonight because the township has not done what it said it would do. Instead, the township has violated our trust and will establish, if it passes this motion tonight, that what it says it will do and what it will actually do are two separate items and not the same. All of us want to make our streets safer, but I don't think it is right to make one street safer while making the surrounding streets less safe by potentially diverting traffic from one street to another. You may recall that the concerns about traffic being diverted, which is a potential side effect of many traffic calming measures, especially speed bumps, led to a moratorium imposed by Mr. Ziankowski. At the May 9th Board of Commissioner meeting, Mr. Ziankowski explained what this moratorium meant and what was going to be done so that any side effects of traffic calming measures implemented on a given street would be minimized. At that meeting, Mr. Ziankowski explained, and I quote, "I have instructed staff traffic into putting a moratorium on further evaluation of speed humps, traffic calming, and those particular items until we complete an analysis on two particular projects. One is on South Aberdeen, and one is South Wayne." End quote. Mr. Ziankowski continued, quote, "The police department will go through and analyze that when we put these types of traffic calming devices in places, what is the residual effect as traffic moves itself out onto other streets? Are we creating other problems, other issues? So during this process of the installation, we will actually have data that will be performed by our police department, which then will be able to give a report to the commissioners on when we move forward. The evaluation of not only the current process in that place, but also recommendations of how we would go forward and evaluate these types of analysis for traffic calming devices in the future. But those two we are actually using as test cases on South Aberdeen and South Wayne." Commissioner Higgins then asked, "How long do you think it will take you to get the data?" Mr. Ziankowski answered, quote, "I believe we're looking at sometime the installation being done here in the next 2 weeks of the traffic calming, and then I believe at least 30 days once it, which was the single temporary speed cushion, gets installed. But also, too, is because a lot of the schools will be letting out here shortly. And we're going to look at this in September and then come back to the board with a recommendation." Commissioner Higgins followed up, quote, "So sometime in the late fall is when you expect to have the data to say the side effect of what happens?" Mr. Ziankowski answered, "That would be correct. We want to make sure that we get the data. Each of you, I know, were sent a YouTube video link of this exchange earlier this weekend. I do hope you had a chance to review it in its entirety. Anyone hearing this exchange and watching the meeting on television would have understood that one of the main reasons the moratorium was put in place was that so correcting a problem on one street would not make problems on another street worse. Additionally, the same person would have understood that any analysis regarding the side effects of traffic calming would be based upon not only the data collected in late May and early June, but also in September when schools were back in session. And finally, that person would have understood that the temporary installation would be the same as what would be proposed to be installed permanently after the data was analyzed. This understanding was confirmed in an email exchange with Mr. Ziankowski at that time. None of this has turned out to be the case. Any data that may have been collected after the installation of the one temporary speed bump, not the two that are now proposed to be installed permanently, was not done for even 30 days under real-world conditions, let alone into September. This cannot be collected as described by Mr. Ziankowski, because shortly after the single speed bump was installed, South Wayne Avenue was closed for the summer for water main replacement. Additionally, obviously no data has been collected in September since we're here in July. It is with this background that we now arrive here tonight, where a motion for the permanent installation of not one speed bump, which was tested, albeit not in the manner that Mr. Ziankowski explained in May, but two permanent speed bumps is before you. It is reasonable to assume that the two speed bumps could have a dramatically different effect on traffic than one does. In fact, the difference between one and two speed bumps is evidenced by the township voting on the installation of the two, not one, because based on conversations we've had with the staff traffic, one was not sufficient to have an effect on traffic calming. Therefore, two must have a different effect on one. To say otherwise would not be honest. I don't think it is fair or just to correct a problem on one street while making the problem on another street worse. I would feel the same way if the situation reverse. I would not want to make a situation worse on a neighboring street just to help my street. This is the same thing that Commissioner Curley just asked when it came to the Llewellyn Mansion. When the issue of the garage shifting to one, he asked, aren't we just shifting the problem to another person? In that case, the answer is no, because it goes to a commercial district. Here, we don't know. In May, the township seemed to recognize this fact, and this is why Mr. Ziankowski said they would analyze whether the single temporary speed bump would have an impact on surrounding streets. Instead of following through and collecting the right data, the township changed course and didn't do what it said it would do. No analysis has ever been done with 2 temporary speed bumps installed. Therefore, no one here tonight can say that the 2 speed bumps will not have an effect on the neighboring streets, because no analysis has ever been done with conditions that resemble what is being voted on here tonight. The issue of speed bumps in South Aberdeen Avenue was not new and was raised specifically at the January 24th Board of Commissioner meeting after the staff traffic had recommended against them. A long discussion followed about traffic calming devices and the need to take a comprehensive look at the effects they have on traffic throughout the neighborhood. As Commissioner Spengler noted at the time, when you place speed bumps on one street, every surrounding street will want them because of the effects they have on traffic. There was almost universal agreement amongst the commissioners present that day that there should be a plan and that the township code and the criteria contained should be followed. Mr. Ziankowski agreed, stating there should be a standard and that the commissioners, with resident input and resident feedback, will be the ones to make the decisions and set the policy. A similar sentiment was expressed at the February and March meetings. At the May 9th meeting, it seemed that a plan was being put in place to help this process and to set the best policy for traffic calming measures throughout the township. This plan, however, has not been followed and was short-circuited. Additionally, it is still not clear that the installation of 2 permanent speed bumps in South Aberdeen, as opposed to 1, is permissible under the criteria that have been established by this body and embodied in the township code, since, as it was explained earlier this year, the 2 were previously rejected. Finally, I have one more point to raise, and which relates not to what the township did, but how we found out on South Wayne Avenue about this vote. The residents on our street have been working closely with the township and Commissioner Curley on this issue. We have spoken at previous meetings like this one tonight. We've been to community events, and we've even had a meeting at our house with Superintendent Colarudo, Sergeant Smith, and Mr. Ziankowski. In addition, my wife and I will be at a staff traffic meeting tomorrow morning to discuss a crosswalk on South Wayne Avenue. We were told throughout this process that the 2 streets would be worked on together and that the analysis would be done in a fashion that had been explained in the meeting. That is, before any change that could affect one street, data would be collected to make sure that it doesn't have a negative impact on another street. And as I said, Mr. Ziankowski even confirmed this procedure to me in an email. It was quite a surprise, therefore, when we viewed the agenda for this meeting on last Friday afternoon, that only generically stated that a motion regarding traffic calming on South Aberdeen would be voted on tonight. There is no description in the agenda or the packet, nor did Commissioner Curley have the courtesy to contact any of us on South Wayne Avenue to let us know what was going on. Commissioner Curley knows this is a sensitive issue, and we would have greatly appreciated him contacting us to let us know ahead of time what the board intended to do. Commissioner Curley is a representative of all of his ward residents, not just South Aberdeen Avenue. Even if we disagree on how he should vote on certain issues, Commissioner Curley has a duty to have shared this information with all of us rather than trying to sneak it through, which is what the appearance this gives. In contrast to what Commissioner Curley should have done, he only just sent an email out shortly before this meeting was to begin, in fact, just 2 hours, to tell Ward 6 about this issue. This is probably the first time most of the residents even heard about this vote. However, in his email, we were very disappointed because of the way in which he distorted and mischaracterized our positions. Even though there were repeated representations that the 2 streets would be done together so that the implementation of any measure on any street would not have an effect on the other, Commissioner Curley mischaracterized this representation to mean nothing would be done on either street separately. To bolster his case, Commissioner Curley noted in his email that certain measures have already been done on South Wayne before the South Aberdeen issue was even resolved. This is a red herring. None of the measures done on South Wayne so far would or could have an effect on South Aberdeen. That is the key difference between what has been done before tonight and what may be about to be done. Placing new signs or putting up delineators does not divert a significant amount of traffic. Speed bumps divert a significant amount of traffic. It is a proven fact. PennDOT agrees. Everyone agrees. That is why back in May, the township was going to evaluate the effect it would have on other streets and do it in a comprehensive manner. This is what the residents wanted to make sure did not happen, And this is what Commissioner Curley apparently refuses to understand, even after lengthy conversations over the past 72 hours. As a result of this, as a result of these tactics, you're only hearing from me and a few other residents from our street and possibly the neighboring streets. Had the procedure outlined in May not been short-circuited, and had this motion not been hidden in the manner in which it was, there could have been many more residents of nearby streets, not just on South Wayne Avenue, who are very concerned about the side effects of the traffic calming presented tonight. We will, of course, never know. In summary, I hope that in view of the facts that the Township has not followed the procedure it laid out in its May 9th meeting, and that the lack of notice that the residents have been given, I hope that you will temporarily at least table the motion and that the proper data be collected in the manner that was stated in the May Board of Commissioner meeting and confirmed by Mr. Ziankowski in an email to me. And it should be only after this Township has the proper information that the Commissioner should vote on a change that could affect many of the streets surrounding South Aberdeen Avenue. What is the rush? You have to ask yourself whether you want to be responsible for making one street less safe because of what you have done on another. And all you had to do was wait a few months to know the right answer. If the board approves this motion tonight, the board is sending a message to all of its residents that what the Township says it will do and what it does do are different things, and the residents should continue to believe the Township at their own risk. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please state your name again for the record?
Daniel Skolnick, South
Thank
Wayne
you.
Avenue.
Any further public comment? Mr. Rice, I have a question about how we have this presented on the agenda. I understand things like traffic signs have to be done by ordinance. Do speed traffic calming measures have to be done by ordinance?
Not that I'm aware of.
So there's no
It's not-
requirement?
I mean, it's the traffic calming device. It's not going to be something that I think the chief or police department's going to be issuing a ticket for. So
I see.
stop signs, parking signs, traffic control devices, they need to be done by ordinance to make them enforceable. So
I
no.
see. So it has more to do with enforcement than the effects.
Correct.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Richard Budkosk. I live at 325 South Wayne Avenue. I am not familiar with all of the details intimately of what went on in previous meetings, but I received, only by being forwarded, Commissioner Curley's email. I just received a copy of it as I walked in here this evening. I did attend our neighborhood meeting with the Township, and our impression from that meeting was that this was to be a holistic solution between looking at South Wayne and Aberdeen. Our view as South Wayne Avenue residents is that we realize we are all linked in some manner amongst the neighborhood streets, and that we need to realize that we need to have something that is fairly exercised across all streets so that there's a sense of fairness and evenness across the neighborhoods. It's not fair to try to deal with calming on one street without addressing the whole holistic solution elsewhere. And our belief was that that was part of the reason that the moratorium excluded South Aberdeen and South Wayne. Looking at South Wayne, we have been very concerned and have been very vocal about trying to be open towards potential solutions for South Wayne Avenue, knowing that it is a state highway, restricts certain things to a much more severe degree than you might have on other township-controlled streets. And we have been looking at a variety of solutions and have had great difficulty trying to come up with an option that we feel can effectively control traffic speed along South Wayne Avenue. We have been very vocal in looking at any option that if we cannot find one, we're open to suggestions for other options as well. We have looked at, there has been a temporary realignment at Conestoga Road. We're looking at a stop sign on Audubon. There's discussion about crosswalks. There have been discussions about street trees. I believe Reason Communications on street trees, PennDOT has apparently declared that they don't want any street trees directly along the street on a state highway at this point, which is a little disturbing considering the long-term track record of street trees in Radnor Township. We've been looking at curbing. Curbing does exist on South Wayne. Unfortunately, it's been buried by years of poor maintenance and repaving projects by PennDOT. We have discussed speed bumps, but we are still searching for a solution. And the concern we have tonight is that by jumping ahead with a solution on one street, we're not sure where that will leave us on South Wayne, because we're afraid that there may be discussions down the road about potential options on South Wayne that may be precluded by proliferation of speed bumps on other streets nearby. Again, once we come up with a list of solutions with the township. If none of these are available and the ones that we can come up with are not possible or realistic, our question to the township is, what else would you suggest? Because we are open to a wide variety of options. We're not coming hat in hand with one solution, take it or leave it. We're looking for anything that will help us reduce the speed down to the speed limit. One of the things, Commissioner Curley, I would say is that South Aberdeen has the benefit of being represented by 2 commissioners. South Wayne Avenue only has the ability to be represented by 1. We need your wholehearted support to help us on South Wayne. And we're a little disappointed with the development this evening. One of the comments in your email was, more data would not provide the objective proof that some want. I guess I would say that in a Donald Rumsfeld fashion, you don't know what you don't know yet. So our feeling is that there is more data that could be studied to review this, but we think we would look for a holistic solution rather than one at a time street. Thank you.
Any further public comment? Seeing none, I want to reiterate that there will be a discussion tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. during the Staff Traffic Committee meeting. Item number 9 is a discussion regarding issues concerning speeding vehicles and right-of-way issues on South Wayne Avenue. My only comment on this is, I'll make it very brief. There may have been instances where folks have misspoke. I think what I'm hearing is that everybody wants the big problem solved, and they want the problem on their own street to be solved, and they don't want someone else's problem to become their problem. I feel that we have a process that has been in place for a long time where we have staff traffic committee meetings. They evaluate the criteria objectively, and if the streets warrant things like speed humps or any other type of traffic calming device, then the staff traffic committee meeting makes that recommendation. And it's my understanding that the committee has made this recommendation. I know we were hoping to go to a much larger, broader process of looking at the cause and effect of these measures against other areas and neighborhoods and streets, but I'm not so sure we possess the skill and ability to do that at this time and the technology. We can do lots of studies, but in the end, nothing will get done. I'm going to support this tonight, but what I'm hoping for is that tomorrow morning, and I do plan to be at that meeting, that we will look at that and see what can be done on South Wayne as well. Because I do believe there can be an effect from one to the other. However, we have speed humps in all of our wards, and I don't really see them causing more traffic on other roads. Because I have speed humps on roads where the traffic is still fast, still many vehicles, and then I have roads that have no speed humps and no one tends to go down them. So it's not clear to me. It's anecdotal. So I'm not sure we'll come up with a solution here tonight. I also want to defend Commissioner Curley. As you know, the commissioners are, for all intents and purposes, volunteers. We really are doing this because we care. We receive about $2,100 in compensation a year. My phone bill for my cell phone is about $2,500 a year. So there's clearly no compensation for me. I can't speak for Commissioner Curley, but I can tell you that he does care about this issue quite a bit, and he does want to please everyone. And sometimes when you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one. So I hope that we can at least piecemeal, if that's what it ends up being, fix the problems in South Wayne. So I hope if we pass this motion tonight that everyone that's here doesn't leave completely disappointed knowing that tomorrow morning we're going to immediately start looking at South Wayne. And I do plan to be there for the entire meeting. So if that's any consolation. I don't know how the board's going to vote. None of us have discussed this. In general, if reducing the speed on South Aberdeen makes it safer for the pedestrians and residents on South Aberdeen. I'm in favor of speed tables, any other traffic calming device on that road. So if I vote against it, then I'm basically saying I don't care about those issues on that road. I understand this holistic idea, and I think it's a great one. I think it would be great if we could wait till September and then do a study. But my concern is that by waiting, we miss the opportunity to address the issues, and we kind of get that analysis paralysis. So I don't want to defend anyone else here, but I just think that we really are here to try to help. And I hope you all recognize that at some point. Mr. Curley feels really bad about the circumstances, the way this kind of changed. But at the same time, he has an obligation to try to protect the public's health and safety, just as I do. So if that helps, if it doesn't, I don't know. Mr. Zinkowski,
Sure.
do you comment?
Sure. You know, the whole interesting process here is speed calming, traffic calming, and how passionate everybody is with this. It's very clear that the South Wayne residents are just as passionate as those on South Aberdeen. The patience level to get to a certain point, you know, to go through the data. I do want to recognize Sergeant Smith, who really does an extraordinary job in traffic calming and making sure that we are applying the law the appropriate way, and also to Superintendent Colarulo to try to find ways in which to navigate to try to address some of the concerns that we heard from the residents on South Aberdeen, as we've heard on South Wayne. You know, it's easy in the first blush, and I can see, Dan, you know, a frustration level, and I guess at times it's easy to, you know, throw daggers or that. I do want to say that Commissioner Curley, almost weekly, we have had conversations, phone conversations, emails, somehow regarding South Wayne and South Aberdeen in regards to traffic. And how do we try to navigate through that? Yes, we're bringing both of these through. South Wayne and South Aberdeen is being looked at outside of the moratorium of how do we address this. The challenge that comes about, and one of my flaws, and I'll admit to it, is patience. Because to me, a lot of times we outthink ourselves, and we go through the process very long and laborious, and months later we have no decision. With Sergeant Smith and what he's been doing with Commissioner Curley trying to navigate through PennDOT, which I'm not sure how much experience you've had dealing with state agencies and traffic. It's very easy for an agency such as the Department of Transportation, whether it's in Ohio, whether it's in Pennsylvania's program, to say no. You can see the amount of effort and response you've gotten from your state representatives, who you've reached out to ask them to do something. The net result has been zero action, because whether they'll tell you or not, they're going to respond back to is whatever PennDOT says, that's what we're going to live by. I'm one that I think we listen to residents as much as we can. Granted, sometimes probably there's a difference of opinion of how we listen or what we listen. At the end of the day is how are we going to be successful and try to address traffic issues on South Wayne, which is a concern. As we've seen some of the responses come back, and I know we forward those, Commissioner Curley passed those along in regards to PennDOT's discussions, rather raising curbs on South Wayne, in which they've responded that they are not going to do that. They've responded to the issue with trees, where they said they're not going to do that unless you, as the residents, going to assume complete liability for that, which I'm not sure anyone would take that liability upon that. Sergeant Smith has other recommendations. We've looked at the chicanes, if that's going to be, you know, to work to calm that corner down, which I think it has, to move into a permanent solution there. Regarding the traffic, the sidewalks and the crossing areas there, of how we make that accommodate on the ADA side, because there is going to have to be a reconfiguration on South Wayne of the ADA access for ramps, which more than likely is going to require land takes upon residential property to be able to make that work. And those homes that would be impacted, those would be the ones that we would have to negotiate. And if we weren't able to gain an easement on, then we would turn that over to the solicitor to the possibility of a take of the property. Knowing of where PennDOT is going, in their constant denials, and I believe, George, correct me if I'm wrong here, that's been looked at before, and PennDOT has usually come back with over the years of the answer is no on basically everything. My opinion is here is I think there's a lot of, it's advantageous to try to get something done on South Wayne based on a movement we make on South Aberdeen. Whether we agree or disagree, that falls on my shoulders, and I take that responsibility for that. However, we can sit here for years on end and have nothing done, or we can actually move here and then go back to PennDOT here sometime in August and come out with a clear recommendation of what we need to do on that area. I know in the meeting we had with neighbors at your house, there were some that actually had talked about they weren't in favor of a speed hump to be put in. Looking at this and looking at the data that came from South Aberdeen with the amount of reduction that took place, and actually seeing the average daily count go up, or actually there was more traffic, where you would think actually traffic would go down, traffic went up. So it wasn't actually, I don't believe South Wayne was closed at the time in which you were looking at that, so that South Wayne was open still. So the issue is Commissioner Curley, I think, has done a very good job of trying to come up and navigate, a way to make Don the point of this, Don, the villain of this, I think would be absolutely incorrect. I'll wear that jacket in regards to that here. But at the end of the day, I've heard what the neighbors have said on South Wayne and how we try to navigate that through a road that we don't control. We're having a tough time just trying to get them working with Steve Norsini to try to get a road repaired in front of the post office that's been there for 4 years, I believe, in which that's been plated to finally we're getting some action there. But I don't think we can continue to wait that long, because I think there's safety concerns that are legitimate on South Wayne. And again, I'll take the flaw of saying I'm not patient to be able to wait that long and to try to go through PennDOT and to try to allow them to go through and look at this. I'd rather have a specific plan of what we're going to look at and how we're going to do that. I think there's an advantage here with South Aberdeen to bring this along, because I think what the impact is there will help us make a strong argument with PennDOT, so that when we can come back, and I would like to come back to the Board of Commissioners in September with a recommendation here of what we can do to calm traffic on South Wayne Avenue. If there's a communication error, again, that falls with me, and I take that. At the end of the day is how do we look to resolve that? And just as passionate as you are on South Wayne, I can see some of the residents here from South Aberdeen who we had some interesting conversations, interesting drop-in conversations, interesting emails, interesting conversations outside the library. So it's a passionate concern for your neighbors and residents. Have we dropped South Wayne? Absolutely not. Are we forgetting that or pushing South Wayne aside? Absolutely not. Sergeant Smith, again, that is on the staff traffic tomorrow with the crosswalk. The superintendent continues to keep working on that. Commissioner Curley, is continuing to go to bat for the residents. And I just don't say this because Don is one of my supervisors here, is because Don gets emotionally involved with these, and he takes it seriously, and he takes it personal. And I know the conversation that we had with Don several times today, it's personal to Don on this because he cares a lot. So Don has done his end. If there's any errors or issues regarding the process, that falls and lies with me. But at the end of the day, my goal is that we provide traffic calming that is significant and also is not just window dressing of putting stripes on the street or painting squares, that we have something that's meaningful. And that's where the direction we go.
Thank you, Mr. Zinkowski. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
The next item is introduction of an ordinance, 2-hour parking on Banbury Way, and I'll move the approval.
I'm sorry, can I just say 2 sentences here? On behalf of the South Aberdeen, residents, I'm Sarah Shano, 205 South Aberdeen, and particularly Laureen Laby and Julia Bonenberger, who have worked hand in hand with me on this. We just wanted to thank Chief Colarulo, Sergeant Smith, Commissioner Spengler, Mr. Zankowski, and last but very far from least, Don Curley, for working with us for nearly 2 years on this process, listening to all of our concerns and coming up with creative solutions. It has been a long process, and everybody has logged a tremendous number of hours. Don has probably put in the most time of anybody on this, and we truly appreciate everybody's work and effort. Thanks.
Thank you.
I move the introduction of the ordinance 2-hour parking Banbury Way.
Second.
Commissioner comment? Public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
You have before you the approval of staff traffic minutes. I will move the approval.
Second.
I just had one question, Bob. It says here we're going to remove the 2-hour parking on that one block of Pembroke, but previously did we do the 300 block of Midland? Okay, yeah, so the 400 blocks out there's going to stay there. The 300 block we're going to look at again. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any further comment from the board? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
The next item is the award of the bid for the road resurfacing. We have 16 roads we're doing. The low bidder, Alan Myers. I move the approval of the resolution for the amount of $504,222.45.
Do I have a second?
Second, John? No? You're not second?
No, because I have questions.
Somebody else second.
I'll second it, but I'll ask my question.
Okay.
I'll second it for you, Bill. John Rice, are we allowed to do this because they changed their bid after the bid letters were opened?
Still the low bidder. You can negotiate with the low bidder.
So even though the fact that they increased the price by 10 cents per unit or whatever you want to call it, do we know what the other guy's per unit price was?
Well, they weren't the low bidder. I mean, if you have a low bidder before you sign a contract with a low bidder, if you're going to reduce the quantities in some fashion, you still have to go to the low bidder.
Okay.
He still ends up being the low bidder, but you've got him negotiated down to a lesser number.
Okay, so you're perfectly comfortable that this is
Steve and
appropriate?
I spoke about this
Okay.
in some detail. In this situation, the way this was done, I don't have a problem with it.
I have a question on the street list, and I apologize. I meant to get this answered before tonight. On the original street list, Lowry's Lane was listed as one of the streets that was to be repaved from Conestoga Road to Lancaster Avenue, and we now know that that's pretty much going to be covered by the utility companies. And my only question is, because that's a pretty large road, maybe you want to explain if, I mean, I'll put it this way, I approved the original list because I saw one of my streets in my ward on it. Now I see that that one street is being paved by utility companies at virtually no cost to the township. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But
what will happen is Lowry's Lane for its entirety was disturbed by the Aqua Pennsylvania project. Lowry's Lane from Conestoga to Fairfax will be the area where PICO has coinciding work. So the full width resurfacing will only take place from Conestoga Road to Fairfax on Lowry's. The rest of the road is that single lane aqua restoration. So we still propose to complete Lowry's Lane with this project.
do I get a credit for any
No,
other
you
streets in my
you
ward?
get a dumb for bringing it up. It's your ward. You should have left it alone. You don't do Lowry's Lane.
No, the reason I brought it up is that, you know, when we originally voted on this, that information wasn't known to me. So I guess the question is the current bid, because when we put this out to bid, I don't know if that was in the bid spec.
No, actually, Lowry's Lane, again, this bid went out prior to my starting here, but Lowry's Lane in its entirety was in the bid.
So don't we get a credit for that square footage?
Correct. We're going to have, if all goes well, additional funds available. And what I would suggest is we let the utility work get completed on Good Shepherd, Meredith, Eachus, and all that area, and then see if we can maybe apply the paving from Fairfax to Conestoga, slide that to another street in that area.
Okay, I appreciate that, because there may be some disruption on those roads that we
Absolutely.
didn't expect, so, great, thank you.
2 questions, Steve. Isn't Alan Myers the contractor on the Goshen Road project?
That's correct, Mr. Nagel.
Is any of the year-long delay the fault of Alan Myers?
I am unaware of where that delay happened with that PennDOT project. I know there was issues with the design and even with the dimensioning of the project, be it metric versus the units we use. I don't think the 2 divisions, the paving division strictly is paving, so their involvement would be to put that asphalt on Goshen Road, but this division wouldn't have been involved in that road relocation project early on.
Yeah, after what we've gone through over there, I hate to reward them. I also noticed that the only road in the 5th Ward has been taken off the list, which is Fawn Hill. Is that because I have so many state roads?
When the bids came in to fit within budget, which the other commissioner had mentioned, I sat down with staff who devised the list and said, what are your thoughts? What should go? And it was Fawn Hill and Old Sugartown. Now, as we go through this list, the quantities, the proof is in the pudding. When we do the actual measurements for payment, that's where we know exactly where we'll stand. And we also have money in this project for base repair. If we don't have to use it, my hope would be we could try to recoup, no guarantee, but try to recoup another one of those roads.
Thank you.
All right, any public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I would like to approve the resolution to allow Delaware County Planning Department to prepare the Act 537 on Radnor Township's behalf.
Second?
Wait, actually, did
we
we
skip
skip
one?
2011-91?
Oh, what's that? Yeah.
Item T?
All right, we'll go right back to that. Do this one now.
Okay.
Second.
Board comment? Public comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Next, I'd like to approve the resolution to award bid for tree removal and stump grinding to the lowest bidder, Jimmy's Tree and Landscape Service, for $27,650.
Second. Question. The money we got from Chanticleer is not being used for this, is that correct?
No, we're accounting for the Chanticleer donations in a separate line item, and those are being tracked. We keep a separate accounting of the Chanticleer donations and what they've been used for. So, no, this will not impact those donations at all.
Because they were specifically earmarked for planting, from what I remember.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with what they were earmarked for. I can just assure you and anyone who's watching that this is a separate line item within the budget that was approved by the board when we passed the budget. So,
thank you.
you're welcome.
Public comment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Spengler. Library, Commissioner Schaefer.
Well, I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed your
St.
last
Martin's to subdivide the property in 2 lots. John, has this been the planning commission? Are we approving this tonight with the conditions?
No.
Oh.
No, I think,
The agenda says it's final. The
well,
letter says it's preliminary.
what's being recommended is preliminary final. The planning commission, Dave, I think, has looked at this. Have they voted on it?
The Planning Commission did make a recommendation for final plan approval, but this was, I guess, first for discussion tonight, and then it would be coming back in September
Right.
for final
This
plan
is your
approval.
this is your caucus
Okay, fine.
session. Any comments, and then we'd come back with a resolution.
Well, the applicants want to come up. This is a 2-lot subdivision. And there are a number of conditions here that there's recommending that you, do you have any problem with any of these conditions? Is there any, so you agree to all these conditions?
If I can just take a second, I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm
Okay.
Chris Bishop, Reverend Christopher Bishop, the new priest at St. Martin's. Got here in June. I'm really just here tonight to make myself available for any questions you may have. From an ecclesial standpoint, the Diocese of Pennsylvania has looked at this and they have approved the subdivision and the sale of the land. So again, I'm available for any questions you might have. And
So so the intent is what's identified as Lot 2 is to sell that off?
Excuse me?
The intent is what is identified as Lot 2 is to sell that off?
Correct.
Do you have, and I asked John Rice to look into this, maybe you guys know the answer to this. This is the second time you have carved off a piece of property to sell. How many times can you do this on this piece of property?
The minimum lot size, I think, is 1 acre in this district. So it may be possible, David can look at this, but just looking at this, it's, I'm sure possible, Kevin, at least one more.
Sounds like 7 or 8 more, John.
Well, you have improvements
Well, we'd
on
be
that.
out of the church business in that case.
You still have to meet the parking and impervious surface requirements. So, at least one, maybe 2. I'm not sure. I'll let the engineers figure that out. But
If you can just get me an answer. I'm not sure I'm understanding what I'm looking at accurately. It's sort of surprising. Are you closing the entrance that's up by the church? Is that part of the plan?
No, let me just jump in. My name's John Riley. I'm a member of St. Martin's Church. I'm the rector's warden, one of the lay leaders of the parish. And this is a unique property in that there are currently 3 entrances to our campus. This entrance on King of Prussia Road, this entrance off of Glen Mary, and then there is an entrance here at the corner of Glen Mary and Belrose. All 3 entrances will be retained in this plan. What is happening is that there is the new 1 acre lot on which our carriage house is currently constructed is going to be newly created, and for purposes of demonstrating the feasibility of the subdivision, we've indicated a driveway that would exit onto Belrose. But this entrance, this entrance, and this entrance would all be retained and service the main church, which is here, and our Bolingbroke Mansion, which houses currently a daycare and is also frequently used for parish functions and other functions here, down here. So what is happening is there is a road, and I'm sure if we talk about the comments from the engineer, there is a road that currently runs through the property, which obviously will need to go away because of the creation of this lot, and we'll be taking out a fair amount of paved area here and restoring it to grass and whatnot as part of the subdivision.
So the work you guys were doing up near the corner of Glen Mary and Belrose, where you had the fencing around, what was that for? Oh,
Actually, that was temporary storage. If you're aware, currently on Glen Mary, the contractor that's doing work for Aqua Pennsylvania throughout this area here is currently storing equipment there. And the fencing that was earlier last year on our property, they were storing their equipment while they were doing the work on King of Prussia Road. You'll recall last year the main down King of Prussia Road was the emphasis, and they had temporary storage of their equipment there.
You're going to do it this at the sort of the top middle, the road that sort of becomes a dead end. No, right there.
And actually, it's interesting that you raised that question. That was a point of some conversation with the Planning Commission on July 5th. This will be retained because it does. We currently have a crossing over this water course, which we would want to retain for access for landscaping, and there's also a sewer line that runs roughly in this direction, and to the extent that that ever had to be serviced, the thinking is that retaining this crossing of this water course would be beneficial. So that's what we're doing with that. And over here, and this is a depiction of what this is going to look like, but I suspect at the end of the day it will be somewhat prettier than that. But We won't need the through traffic because of the existence of this new lot. So we're taking out really is a fair amount of the paved area.
And Rich, that's your house, right, up there?
Where?
The one at the top left,
Yeah, we all know it is.
right? So you'd be the guy who's most impacted by any of these changes.
What?
We're just probably going to buy it.
Yes, Rich Booker, 455 Belrose Lane. Yes, we would be the most impacted by it, but are supportive of the subdivision.
Have you, just by chance, have you talked to the Burns across the street or any of the folks about the driveway?
Across which street? Who?
Burns, corner house. There's the two houses. There's the Burns, and I don't actually know the people next to the Burns, the ones who are across the street on Belrose.
Across from me?
No, across from the Reverend's house.
Right here?
Yeah.
It's the tar boxes.
Okay, I don't know the tar box. I know the Burns.
I have not.
Okay.
We haven't spoken with them, but we have made the required mailings.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and in response to the earlier question with respect to whether we had any thoughts or differences of opinion with respect to the comments that the engineer had prepared, we did have a number of points on which we had discussions at the July 5th Planning Commission meeting, and my sense is that we got to a place where there may have been one or two points where we needed to clarify either whether the engineer's comment would continue or the manner in which it would the comment would be responded to, and those items are specifically, if you've got the letter, it's item 2, number 3, I believe. There was an issue with respect to the calculation of impervious surface, which our engineer, Momney and Associates, and the township engineer had discussed and had reached an agreement as to how that would be addressed. Additionally, item 3, number 6. Is
that correct?
I'm sorry.
That is correct, yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Also, item 3, number 6, which was a comment directed to the fact that because the through traffic, if you will, on this interior roadway would be disrupted because of the removal of the certain of the paved area. The concern of the engineer was that we would end up with a dead-end parking area, and if that were the case, then people might have difficulty entering, dropping off, exiting the area. And we did discuss the fact that this entire area here is not used for parking, but is paved, and we believe provides ample room in which to turn around if people had to turn around because there were insufficient parking spaces when they pulled in or whatever the circumstance might be. And additionally, in response to a specific request from the Planning Commission, we did we did agree that we would put some sort of a barrier here that limited the ability of traffic to simply wander up the road to nowhere. It could be a gate, it could be one Planning Commission member described it as 2 poles and a chain, just something that is going to block traffic from heading up that direction and finding out that there is nowhere to go. So I think that...
Do we agree that that's sufficient?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, either a chain across...
No, I'm not talking about that.
Sorry.
I'm talking about what your comments here about the passenger drop-off and pickups to be made safely.
Yes, I mean, our concern there was just, we think it should be delineated somehow. I mean, we think there should be some striping or something that shows a delineated area that can be used for a turnaround. We agree it can be done, but we think an area should be set aside just for that use.
Yeah, we're certainly happy to do that.
Okay.
And finally, there are a number of points in the in the letter from the engineer, which talk about currently recording certain agreements or easements that would be conditions to the approval of the subdivision. And the situation that we find ourselves in currently is it's going to be uncertain in terms of the length of time that we will hold title to both of these properties. We're going through subdivision now, so if a purchaser should appear and we felt that it was appropriate to sell the property, that we'd be in a position to do so in a timely manner. But it's uncertain as I stand here currently, just the duration of the time that we will be holding title to both properties. That being said, we're not going to, the intention is not immediately to make the changes in the interior roadway until such time as we're ready to close on a sale. So to the extent that there are comments in the letter which talk about currently recording easements and other restrictions, it'd be our preference not to do that, but we are certainly willing to have all of those types of items identified on the plan so that it is clear that there is the obligation that that be done prior to the ultimate sale of that property and then the other work being done. And I think that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, is there really a need to record the plan, though, prior to selling the lot? I mean, I guess that's where we get into sort of a gray area, because if we try to record this plan without those easements being established, I just think we kind of lose our, I don't want to say leverage, but we lose the ability to keep track of the status of those easements being recorded.
I would not recommend that either. That just leaves it up in the air. Plan gets recorded, who's going to track that?
Our one concern, especially with the easements, there is a request for an easement over the stormwater system, which is required by the stormwater ordinance, and there's a request for an easement to provide access to service that stormwater easement, which really should be over the driveway. Yeah. The intent here on this plan is to demonstrate feasibility, showing that the property can be subdivided, a driveway could be built. There's no say it right now that the buyer of this lot would want that driveway where we're showing it, would want the stormwater management system as it was shown. The buyer of this lot would have to come in with a grading permit to do the driveway. They may decide they want the driveway somewhere else. They may decide to tear down the building and start from scratch. They may decide to do anything. So our concern is establishing those easements at this time and then having found out when it comes time to build that they're not valid anymore.
Hey, Dave, we're talking about separate easements. So the easements I'm referring to are the existing easements for the sanitary.
We have no problem with the existing easements.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what we're referring to, getting verification that those easements have been recorded. I agree with what you're saying about the proposed easements. As a matter of fact, I mean, I think we could have a blanket easement for access to the stormwater facility, and that would, I think, put the whole thing to bed, and we wouldn't have to worry about specifics. But
yeah, and specifically, there was the comment with respect to a stormwater and a sanitary sewer easement from, I believe, a prior subdivision or prior times. The sanitary sewer easement has been recorded, and I believe a copy of that recorded instrument was included in the application materials that we filed at the time of filing the subdivision plan. As to the stormwater easement, we're happy to file that as fast as someone can prepare it and provide it to us for execution.
Okay. So there's not a problem.
I have just a couple more questions. Is the Reverend living in the house now, or is it vacant? Sometimes there's a car there, sometimes there's not.
Chris is currently residing in the rectory. That situation may change.
So if you sell the house and he has no place to live, where does he go?
We're a welcoming community. I'm sure people have air beds and basements.
Okay, so my question. My question wasn't as benign as that. Kevin, were you I'm just wondering if there's a third house going to pop up on the property that isn't identified here yet.
Okay. I thought Kevin was offering a bedroom in his house, the way I read it.
He wants to know if you're going to
We
build.
may have been heading in that direction, but
You have the ability to build another residence on this property,
on which property, I'm sorry?
your property.
The remainder? Theoretically, yeah, I mean, I suppose so. I'm not, we could probably find a spot, but it is unlikely, and the trend in not to digress, but we're going there. The trend in clergy compensation and things of that nature is that many clergy prefer to live off campus, to build equity in a home, and the model of church-provided housing is, kind of fading out.
All right, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it under Public Works, Josh.
Thank you, Commissioner Spengler. Is there anyone from the library here to report anything? Okay, Commissioner Schaefer is absent, so we'll skip library. I have nothing under public health. Under old business, I just have just one or two things here. Mr. Zinkowski, the Board and Commission Handbook. Maybe at our next meeting we get an update. Maybe the September meeting we get an update of where we're at with that. If
We
we've
can do
gotten
that.
feedback from the boards and commissions.
Sure.
I'd like just to reiterate, I'd like to see that we, even if I have to, help more, whatever we need to do, I know we're resource constrained, to get this done before the end of the year, by the end of the year, because I'm hearing from many members of boards and commissions, they're crying out for information, they need to know the rules.
Sure, and I think as part of that too is having our solicitor spend some time with the boards and commissions as we did about a year ago, and want to follow up with them again, just the basic process of the meetings, how they're handled and conducted, what they can do, what they can't do. Kind of give some parameters too as a global training.
Okay,
So,
I appreciate it. And the other, I had, this is for staff traffic, I had a request for, there were some parking issues on Garrett. I've had a couple different residents bring this up. If we get on our next, I don't know if this is a staff traffic issue or not, but we've had a request about the way we handle parking permits on Garrett Avenue, and the fact that we have this public lot on Garrett Avenue that's posted no parking from, I think it's from 9 p.m. till 6 a.m. And from what I understand, it might help. The residents are telling me it would help them to be able to park there at night. So I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe if we could have staff traffic look at that.
Will do, sir.
Appreciate it. That's all I have. Anyone else? Okay, do I have a public participation?
Oh, man.
I almost forgot.
We got kids.
It's not even 11.
And you cannot repeat yourself.
Got it.
So if you've already said it tonight, I appreciate it if you don't say it again.
Jim Schneller, St. David's Park condo. Where I live is in the 500 block of East Lancaster Avenue, which is the block between the St. David's train station and the beginning of the mall and the hotel region. And I'm deeply disturbed because apparently Planned Parenthood National, of which they have an affiliate or a franchise across the street from me, has verifiably given the order that every chapter, every franchise of theirs has to perform abortions. And I wanted to inform the board, regrettably, of this. And I believe that the township residents should know about it. You've probably seen some of us with the Mainline Coalition protesting outside the clinic. And Radnor, I think, is above having a facility that does this operation in its borders. I'm hoping to encourage you to please consider a resolution, or a resolution perhaps asking the Department of Health if they can take any action. The national acceptance of abortion is much lower than it was in the 80s, but we are much more concerned as a people with gas bills these days and a lot of the expenses of life. And the media has softened our attitude, but I encourage every Radnor resident to take note and to make sure that they and their friends and neighbors know that this has just happened. We have been unable to verify if anything's going on at this location, but it's horrendous that it's under our roofs, under our township umbrella, which we hold very sacred.
you.
You gotta be kidding, Brian.
Baron Gemmer, South Wayne Avenue, although could we have a name change to Western South Aberdeen so we could perhaps get some measures earlier? Just a couple clarifications on the Llewellyn Mansion. I've heard that they might be on for the zoning, a special meeting because of the 60-day window in August, but they're not on the August 1st planning as required because they need to go before that as a sketch plan. I assume either Steve or that will be taken care of per the 280-142 where they have to, 280-142B actually to be more specific, but anything that is appearing as a saldo that goes to zoning by the zoning code has to go to planning first as a sketch plan for their comments on the particular topic, much like the Harmonia Spa. They ran into the same issue. Secondly, I just wanted to confirm, so essentially what was approved tonight was the submitted the originally submitted plans with the grade modification and not the new plans. So essentially we don't have plans that represent what the new garage is. We just have the original plans with the grade change. Is that a correct statement?
Just the grade change is what was approved.
Yeah. So we have
which are shown on these architectural drawings.
The original or the ones tonight?
The ones that were submitted tonight.
Yeah, but those also have a change in the garage entrance too, which wasn't part of the change in motion.
Yeah, that wasn't approved.
So that's what I'm saying. So we have no plans.
We didn't approve a plan. We approved a HARB.
You need to be approving a plan.
Well, not technically,
no.
We approved the HARB.
What was the original, the HARB approval was modified by the board with the 3-foot drop in elevation.
Yeah,
the only reason we had a plan here, Baron, is because the representation that was made was that they had that plan with them. So
I understand that.
But that specific plan, the board didn't approve that plan. I just wanted some reference.
I understand
here
that.
So that you can come in tomorrow and review this. These are the architectural plans. But this, according to the applicant, this shows the 3-foot reduction in elevation.
And where are they required to have the entrance then?
That wasn't addressed.
Yeah, we did not.
That hasn't changed.
That hasn't changed, is what
Correct.
from the original plans.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to get at, because you do need to approve. I mean, just like when you're approving a resident changing.
I understand. It just wasn't. Tonight was about the HARB. It's going to go through the planning.
No, but the
and zoning
plans
process.
for the HARB. Everybody submits their plans, their sketch plans, and their things for the HARB, and that's what you're approving, because that's what has to be followed up by the code officers for that issue also. That's true. So it's basically the original plans are submitted with just the gradual grade change of 3 feet over the length of the garage is what's done. And I do take exception to the fact that with plans are produced after public comment and the public has no chance to comment on those, whether, you might consider it a minor change with that grade change or whatever going on. Perhaps it was, but certainly as a practice, I think that's not good for the residents' due process in order to comment on what we're doing.
I did allow public comment after
Yeah,
that?
sure you did.
I did. So
After the grade change?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yeah, once I got up and spoke.
You shut me up.
No,
No.
Sue got up and
Sue
spoke.
Byrne came up.
You could have got up
Yes.
and spoke. You could have got up and spoke.
But I guess
I'm not going to debate it.
No, I understand. No, I understand.
I did allow
Actually,
public comment.
what I guess more to the point is there's no way for the residents to have reviewed those plans to make any comments. But but basically, we're talking about the original plans plus the grade change, so maybe that's not as relevant.
Didn't the grade change, though, affect the things that the residents spoke about? That's the way I saw it, at least part of it.
Well, to some extent, obviously, but you still have at least a 6-foot or more elevation at the end, so it's still relative to that. I appreciate that. Let me just move on to my last point, which actually you were touching on before, in terms of the boards and the education and the HARB members, because I've written you on 2 or 3 occasions regarding, in particular, the HARB, and even just last week, they were violating the Sunshine Law again. There was a quorum of them meeting specifically with the developer talking about this, and this plan could have easily gone back to HARB just like it did before. And so I hear the education, and perhaps Solicitor Rice talking with them will make a difference, but I think of all the boards in particular, they have a very hard time understanding their boundaries and staying within their boundaries, and that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed very, very quickly because they go outside them all the time. The examples I gave last week was just one of many. So the sooner the better.
That's your
because
opinion.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
And I said that in the letter. If you don't think they violated the sunshine law last week?
I can't comment.
Okay.
All I can comment is your opinion.
It's
which you have
public
many.
comment. We don't need to
Yeah.
comment.
That's my opinion, and
We
I'll
appreciate
stand
your
by it on multiple occasions that happened. So I will stand by that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move we adjourn.
All right, we're adjourned.